Hello, you're listening to the Eric McKenna Project.
All right, friends, we're having an Android-Apple discussion here on this podcast. I used Android forever and have been lured over to the dark side of Apple by my kids. They think I already was on the dark side of phones, being that I was an Apple fan. So I'm figuring it out. But anyways, two of my favorite people, thank you for doing this on this particular Sunday, which is the weather is supposed to be a little bit nicer than it has been. It's been kind of rainy and nasty.
Pleasure.
Cold again, right? Are we like, we don't date the shows, but we are somewhat kind of in the middle of April.
Yeah.
And here in Pittsburgh. And what's this up with this cold weather? I'm not a fan of the cold weather.
It's Pittsburgh, man. You never know what you're going to get. April's the month of 4 seasons, I feel like. Like, we'll probably get snow next week.
No, come on.
Come
on.
Listen,
man.
I think it's going to be
dude.
like 40-some degrees on Wednesday. What is it? Snow? It was like 70 degrees 2 weeks ago, then the next day it snowed.
Yeah.
So... It's Pittsburgh, man. What are you going to do?
Okay, so today I want to talk a little bit about entrepreneurship. Not that you and I haven't bounced this subject around, but I got somebody here that I think the world of, who I have watched her journey, and you two have I don't know, you got a business relationship and also a friendship, so it's really a cool vibe in here today.
Yeah.
I was going to bring a fourth person in here, and to do this show. And do a part of the Four Friends series here, and which would take a different spin because it would be more about current events and so forth. But the more I thought about this gives me a real opportunity to talk more selfishly about entrepreneurship, because both of you certainly embrace that and have been successful at it. And me knowing both of your stories, to some degree, it's going to make this pretty good. So, right off the bat, I'm going to go to you, Tiff. If you can share a little bit about yourself, I'll put you on the spot. But in terms of, I want to talk about where you came from in your life, and then your drive or your turn toward entrepreneurship, and then just a little bit about the decision to go for it and how that kind of looked on the broad base. And we'll get into details later, but just give a little bit of a background on your circumstances.
Okay. Are you ready?
We are definitely ready.
I don't know. Get your popcorn because this is good. No. But I was born in Coraopolis. That's actually where we're filming today. Mm-hmm. And I lived with my grandparents, the Scallies. I don't know if many of you know of Scallies Golf Course, but I was fortunate enough to live with my grandparents and my mom right up here on Woodlawn Drive. So we were there together with my grandparents for 5 years. My mom remarried. We lived here a little while longer, and then we moved to Florida with my mom and my stepfather. We were in Florida for a while. Just had a rocky childhood. My dad died when I was 12, and he still lived here, and we lived there. And we just basically we did the best we could with what we were given, but I often felt like odd man out, just kind of in my relationship with my family. My mom and my stepfather proceeded to have another child, and it just kind of felt like I didn't fit in. There were just a lot of mental and physical abuse that I took during that time. But all the while, I just kind of dived into my studies and just tried to always be the best that I could be. And I guess like my let out was going to school. I love to sing. I love to dance. So I just did the best I could with those things, knowing that was basically all I had. The year my grandfather died, and my grandmother went into a nursing home. So those were very key figures in my life. The people that I had the best relationship with, that I felt cared about me the most, and just being real and authentic. As soon as everyone was gone, my parents, my mom, my stepfather, they had put me into, actually institutionalized me and just said that I was mentally ill. And because I guess it was like, that was the opportunity to get rid of me, and that would be probably the only place that I would go. And the system will take you, as long as that insurance money's coming in and they put a diagnosis on you. And I was there. And I self-taught myself again, you know, even in the institutional setting, I still like tried to be the best that I could be, get the best grades, lead groups, and just strive. And while I was there for years and years and years, like my therapist was like, isn't there someone I can call that'll take you? And I'm like, you know, no, I'm just going to ride it out here. If I have to go to a state institution, if I walk out of here when I'm 18, I don't know what's going to happen, but this is all I had. This is what we're going to do. So my family friend kept coming to Florida to visit and was like, where's Tiffany? Junior LaRocca, the love of my life. Like, he gave me a second chance, and like he finally was able to come visit me. My mom broke down and said, no, she's not dead. She's here. Go see her. So I looked totally different after years and years, obviously, of like antidepressant medication. And he looked at me across the table, and I knew that he was just kind of like, wow, you know, what happened? And I said, don't cry, you know, it's okay. I'm okay. And he was like, do you want to come home with me? And I was like, I mean, can I? And he was like, I'm going to stay here until I get you out of here. For 2 months, he stayed. You know, and they brought me back. I remember the day. Everybody's like, get your GED because you're never going to make it. You haven't seen the light of day. You haven't been in society.
What age were you?
I was 17 when I came back here, right before my senior year. And I was like, no, I mean, that's all I have in this life. Like, if I don't, like, enlist in Cornell High School, graduate from high school, what am I going to do? You know? So that's what I did. I came here. I got a job. I wanted to work. I got a job at Yanni's restaurant. I enlisted in Cornell. I worked every single day, you know, and I just dove into my studies, and by the grace of God, I graduated from high school. It was a hard transition. Like, every day I had to go to St. Francis in Pittsburgh and wean off all that medication. You know, so I came like in April. School didn't start till later, so I had some prep time to get myself back, for lack of better words, or you know, but I never had to take any medication again. Like, I think it was just, you know, we talk about you know, just things that happen. And, you know, maybe it's hard to understand why I was gone for so long and all the key things that I missed out on. But now I just kind of live vicariously through my kids, because there's a lot of things that I didn't get to experience. So I want them to experience, and in turn I get to. But, you know, I wouldn't, if I had to go back and change it, I wouldn't. Because my grandparents were awesome. Though I only had them for a short period, they were the best. They showed me love that I haven't experienced probably since they were here. But it gives me compassion for other people. I understand the struggle. I appreciate everything that I've worked to get, because nobody gave it to me. But I learned very early on that if I didn't give it 100, that, you know, life was going to be what I made it, because no one was coming to save me. I did have somebody come to give me a second chance, and I embraced that second chance. Did I do everything right since I came here? No. But, like, I kind of do things my own way, the hard way, because people say, you know, why'd you take that road? Why do you assume that I saw two roads? I only see the one road. That's the only road I know. Got it. So it's like, you take the bumps, you take the bruises, but everything that I go through, I have to dust off, and no one's pulling me back out, right? So, I mean, that's kind of my story. It's a story of, you know, thinking you were on top of the world. When I was a little girl, I thought I had the best life. But I didn't realize it was going to be for a short time, you know, and things change. And your life's introduced to different people, and not everybody has your best interest in mind. No one's going to love you, you know. I feel like you're like a parent would, or your grandparent would. So, you know, I don't know. So I'm here, right? I graduated from high school here, and like I always have a love for Cornell, because you know that's where it all started. And I had kids when I was younger, but I feel like I wouldn't change that either, because they gave me a reason to live. You know, to really push myself And, I just hope that I've given them a good example of what hard work will do. I don't, people give me excuses. I can't, you don't know my situation. And then I have to tell them, you know what, you can. Let me tell you about my situation.
Yeah.
I had to be my own cheerleader, when the world was looking at me I came to Cornell with a homebound inpatient program paperwork. People knew where I came from. I had to label it crazy when I first came here, but I wasn't crazy. It's just there was nowhere else for me to go.
Right.
There's a lot of Lifetime original movies that have a story similar to mine.
Wow.
Yeah. But I could have went so many different ways. That I know. But the part of you has to be a little bit of crazy to still make it and be here. But I'm strong.
Yeah, obviously so.
Obviously
so. What boy, there's a lot to, and this is a very overused word, but there's a lot to unpack there. When Mr. LaRock came and you came home with him.
Yeah.
And you started basically a new life. Am I right here? You started a new life. Do you think the determination that you exhibit now, which has kind of led you to have that kind of take no prisoners attitude and live your life by your own terms, do you think that the formation of that started around that time, or was it when you were put in the institution, where that almost that survival mode where you're not relying on anyone else but yourself? Because that's where I think the true belief in oneself is missing with most of the population. I think most of the people in society, and this isn't a criticism, it's just an observation, most of the people in society don't have that inner security within themselves that they can get it done, they can survive, they can make it on their own. As scary as that is, most people don't have it. Do you think yours was formed out of desperation and out of the circumstance you were in?
Of course it was, because it was a survival to live. Once once we moved to Florida, like I said, I knew that it was uncomfortable. I knew that I was going to have to sleep with one eye open because there was a person there that wasn't quite fond of me, And I could just see the whole dynamic,
Right.
Whereas you make one wrong move, you're getting beat down to the ground. You know what I mean? So I had to learn survival.
Right.
When kids are learning, what are we going to do tomorrow?
Right.
So I've had that mechanism. I guess that was built in me then. And then when I was 12 and, they dropped me off at the institution the day after Christmas and they were like, do you want to stay here with me? Believe it or not, it was a better place than where I come from. I still have to sleep with one eye open because I don't know who you people are. And I don't, they're coming in to check your blood pressure in the middle of the night because you're on all these meds. And, you don't know who's coming to your room. And you have to share a room with strangers, So I guess I've been in survival mode since I was about 5.
Right.
So, yeah, this coming here when Mr. LaRocca came to get, that was my second chance. That was, but I learned probably at, when I went in there that I was going to have to figure this out. I wasn't going back home. There was no going back home.
Okay.
This was the new home.
Okay.
And you're going to either learn how to get through this system and look out for yourself, because everybody just changed. It was new kids coming in. You have a new person here. There's a new person that works here. I learned how to navigate relationships, and I knew that I needed allies. I needed people that were on my side. You kind of learn that you're going to have to be vocal and you'll have to be social and you're going to have to, you couldn't put your head in the sand. You had to look out for you.
Right.
So, I'm blessed to be here. I give all, I'm a person of faith and I believe that I was never alone. Everything that happened to me was part of the plan. So I feel the purpose for the pain is the fact that I can share my story now without breaking down.
Right.
Because without that story, I wouldn't be who I am.
Okay, so let me ask you this. This is, Rocco, by all means, not to step on you. I didn't know.
No.
I know you well, so we've that in the context of the conversation. And what I do know of you is your kindness. And that's where I think the three of us really believe in the spirit of kindness. And not only the spirit of kindness, the execution of kindness. What amazes me about observing your story and how you live now is that I would guess that if somebody would endure what you had to endure and then make it, some people would find it a little harder to be kind to people, or a little harder to be understanding of other people's plights, or whining, or dismay at the normality of life.
Right.
You know, I don't like these words excuses, but you know where I'm going with this. You don't seem to have that. You've got a lot of patience for people to go with your generosity, charity, and the kindness. And I find that interesting based upon what you came from. Does that make any sense? Like, I mean, you said I'm going to how did you have to, was that always there, or did you have to take a turn toward kindness or charity? Did you have to learn that?
I mean, sometimes, to be honest, Eric, Rocco, I don't even know how I got here. I mean, like, I'm just being real. Like, I mean, coming from, like, not having a place to live, and, people are just letting you stay at their house. And, you know, I mean, it's humbling is all I can say. I mean, I come from nothing and created something. So I think God placed me in the position. I don't think, like, one day he was like, you're going to just be an insurance agent. I don't believe that that's my purpose. It gave me a platform for people to look at me and be a leader. People come to my chair, and it's not about insurance. So I listen to their story, just kind of like I'm sharing it with you guys. And I say, you know what? I'm so sorry that has happened. But what are we gonna do, like, to change the trajectory of your life? Like, you can either keep going this way, or you can decide that you could go that way. And I think the key person, even though the LaRocas I will never forget, right, was Robert Pasco. When I was a waitress, I was a career waitress, you know, in town, you know, from Junior's restaurant to Yanni's restaurant, and, like, that's where I think I built my social skills, because I always wasn't.
Give some story on that. So he was a local insurance agent. Yeah,
so, like, I started here in town just waiting on tables. And to be honest, I wasn't always the vibrant, you know, I came here and I painted my walls black in my bedroom. Like, it was dark. My world was dark. I would put my hair in my face, you know. Like, why would somebody want to listen to me? You know, you're beat down. Your confidence level's down. People tell you you're never going to be anything, and you believe that, you know? Okay. So that's kind of who I was when I first came here, you know? But then as time goes on, it's like you start waiting on tables, you're talking to people, you push your hair back a little bit, you gain a little bit of confidence, and, you know, Robert Pasco was a local insurance agent. He worked for State Farm, right? He was a State Farm agent. Him and his daughter would come eat at the restaurant. So I had put myself through school. I went to Sawyer School in Pittsburgh, and I got my associate degree, and I couldn't find work. So I was still waiting tables, and I asked him, could I work, like, do my job here and maybe come and get off at 2, and maybe come and learn the insurance industry, because it's not too far off from health information technology. So he was like, sure, you know, that will work. It'll give my daughter a break. So I started doing that. Well, come to understand his story is that, like, he was an orphan.
Okay.
So, like, I tend to really gravitate to the people that have had a story. So I could respect him, knowing that everything wasn't given to him. Like, once he started to unload, I'm like, God didn't cross our paths for no reason.
Got it.
Like, you need to listen to him. So he told me about Father Vince that believed in him when he was in the orphanage and kind of built him up.
Right.
Because he didn't have parents. Hello?
Right.
You know? So then I started really buying into what he said. And he saw something in me. Kind of like we talked about before the show, is like, if you see something in someone, I think you have an obligation to try to develop it or speak life into them, right?
You've said that many times.
So, like, he did that to me. I never heard that, like, you're smart. and you could do anything you want to do, Tiffany, and like you can be a State Farm agent, like, and you can have nice cars like I drive, and you can have the finer things in life. You set the tone for your life. And not until he spoke those words to me did I realize that I could. And he'd throw me the keys to the Lexus and be like, drive the Lexus to Lexus and North Hills and you get the manicure. And I'm like driving scared out of my mind, like, I never drove a car like this. And then I'd sit there in a chair like, oh, and notice I've been getting manicures ever since. Like, but I was like, and he like, and it's not that material things are everything, but like, it just gave me something to say, you know what, you're going to go from poverty to abundance because you know why? Because you are. And the mindset changed.
Right.
Like no more scrimping by.
Right.
No more like thinking. I had a stinking thought process that good things don't happen to people like me.
Stinking thinking.
Listen.
Yeah.
I had I had a chip on my shoulder. Like, here we go again. I was my own worst enemy because I was selling myself like the worst possible things that you could sell yourself.
Right.
Like, and then like he just, if he, God bless his soul, he's not here now. He didn't live to see me have my day, but he paved the way for my day because I kept that back here. And when he was alive, I tried to become an agent and take over his agency, and I was mad as hell when it didn't happen.
Yeah.
Wasn't in
like,
the cards.
See?
Wasn't in the
I
cards.
would say, see, Bob, good things don't happen to people like me. And he'd be like, stop that. It will.
Right.
Right. And I never thought in a million years it would take 20 years.
Yeah.
But you know what? It wasn't the right time.
Right.
So maybe I gave up on my dream a little bit, but I kept, just going in the insurance agency and just, I always had a flexible schedule and I could be at all my kids' things. And, but when I thought I was wasting time, I wasn't. I was building knowledge to be able to step out now, 2 years ago, and do it, But all I'm trying to say is you asked me a question about, like, patience with people. I'm hard-headed. Like, it takes, like, I have to be hit with something a bunch of times before I get it. So, like, patient, anybody in my life has to be patient, Because you're not going to introduce something to me once and I'm just going to be like, okay, because that's not how this works.
Okay. Okay.
So, I mean...
But you have a lot of patience with others, though.
I mean, I do to a certain point. Like, I will help you. I will help you.
Right.
Your house burns down. I'll be the first person to say, let's figure out how to get your stuff back. But then what you don't see is we have a little private conversation about, okay, so you're whole again. How are you going to play this different next time? How are you going to protect yourself from not putting yourself in this position again? So we have that little big brother, big sister, we have that moment where it's like, I don't mind helping you, but please don't get yourself in the position like this again.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
absolutely.
I mean, we all make mistakes, but we have to learn from them. And if I don't see you learning from them, then it's sometime we gotta.
Oh, it's like that hard. It echoes that concept of hard love. Would you not agree?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think I look at people that I've dealt with. I'm kind of like you. Like, I believe that it's your choice to design your life. Yeah. Like, but too many people don't see it that way. They have the victim mentality, right? It's poor me, poor this, poor that. And look, shitty things happen to people. I get that, and I would never discount that in any way, shape, or form. But I think we are all put to certain spots in our life where we get to make a decision. How do we want this story to end?
Okay.
And I think I know what my moment was. I think we all have different moments where it kind of clicks. You realize that, wait a minute.
Let's go back and revisit that, your moment.
Yeah, I mean, my moment, to where I am now, my moment is when I left corporate America, right? Like, I spent, 14 years in corporate America, and it wasn't for me. Like, I'm not someone to work for someone else. It's just not, I'm not cut that way. And I had that moment. I realized that, no, this is not for me.
What was that moment? Do you remember what you were doing or what happened?
Yeah, it was, I mean, I may have talked about it before, but it was, I was in corporate America, ran the legal department of an IT firm. They went through a lot of, when I first joined the company, I was young. I was in my 20s. I didn't know my ass from the hole in the ground.
Right.
But I learned on the job, and I made great relationships. The company was growing. It was exciting. I never thought I would be there 14 years. It was like 3 to 5 years, and I'm on to the next thing. I liked the people I worked with. So I was there, but then the company kept changing. Management kept changing, and I got really close to one of the CFOs.
Okay.
He's a client of mine to this day.
Okay.
But we were going through an acquisition, and we were owned by a private equity firm, and they fired him. We weren't making sales. Revenue wasn't growing. Bottom line was growing because he was making the right moves from a cost-cutting perspective. Then they fired him. I'm like, wait a minute. Mm-hmm. It was this moment where I knew that the wrong captains were steering the ship, and I had no control over it.
Got it.
Like my destiny was out of my hands in that company anymore. There was only so much I was going to make, only so much I can do. And I remember it was like they fired him. They brought in a new CFO, which was a nice guy, and I think we would have gotten along. But it was in February. It was in February of, when did I resign? 2018.
Yeah, right.
It was, he met him over the phone. He was coming into Pittsburgh, scheduled a meeting. And I remember coming home from the office that day, and I just had this moment. I said, I'm resigning. I just told Laura at the time, I said, I'm resigning. And it was just, that moment was like, I knew. The moment those words left my mouth, because I had started my practice while I was there. It was kind of my hedge. I was building the practice, but still in corporate America. I was hedging my bets. It was easy to do. So
it was extra money. It was extra income stream, right?
And I knew what I wanted to do long term. So it was giving me the ability to build it without taking a huge risk.
Right.
But then that moment, I'm like, I don't believe in the captains anymore.
What was that moment? Was there when he got terminated?
When he got terminated. When he got terminated, so I'm like, he was the one guy that I thought and believed knew what he was doing.
Got it.
And it was just, when I saw that happen, I'm like, the wrong people are steering the ship. We're going to hit an iceberg.
Right.
And it's my time to jump the fuck off.
Right.
Okay.
And that's when I came home and I said, I'm resigning. And then the guy came in, and it's like the next week or something, he came into Pittsburgh, had a 8-hour meeting scheduled with me. We were getting acquired by a company. I was kind of running the due diligence. Walked in the conference room and told him I was resigning. Gave him 4 weeks notice. And it wasn't one of those climatic moments where you're like, it was just, I didn't feel anything because I didn't really know, right? And then gave my 4-week notice, went on vacation, came back from vacation. I'm like, oh shit, like what did I do? And it was just, but then it's just, I had to just start working. I had to just figure it out. And it was, I knew at that moment, like I remember coming back, we went away, the whole thing went on a cruise. And we came back, and I had small office space in downtown Pittsburgh. And I remember sitting there one day and just thinking, I'm like, there's no more hedge. Like, this story is going to end the way I make it end. Mm-hmm. No one's the cavalry's not coming. Mm-hmm. I walked away from everything. It's on me now. And it was a feeling of fear, but also excitement, because fear excites me, right? It's like you're facing the unknown. And it was in that moment, it was like kind of like you realize, like, holy shit, like it's on me now. And
of course,
every day I wake up and I still think that way, because I'm now responsible for 5 employees and their livelihoods and building the legacy. But it was that moment, like it hit me like a ton of bricks. And I think a lot of people in the world struggle with understanding, if you want a different life or a different result, that's on you. Like, you have to choose or make different choices. Like, if you're unhealthy, choose to not be unhealthy. But it starts with a choice.
Of course.
And people don't like to make that choice because it's very fucking hard to make.
It is.
And that's the problem. And I see it all the time. And I think,
is it hard, or is it scary, uncomfortable? What
both.
is it?
It's both. But I think it's hard because what happened, it's scary and uncomfortable, obviously, right? I think it's hard because people realize that what comes with that choice, right? Yeah. If I'm, I'll just take health and fitness, right? If I'm an overweight person that doesn't work out, right? And I say, I'm unhappy with how I feel right now, and I want to feel better. But I know that if I make the choice to get in shape, That means I got to get up earlier. I got to eat differently. I have to engage in physical activity on an ongoing basis. That shit's just hard to do, right? It's not like people, I don't get up every day and like, I can't wait to fucking work out. This is awesome. I can't wait to eat chicken every day. Like, no, it's just part of what you do.
Right.
But that's part of it. I think there is that fear of how hard it's going to be. But you have to realize that the quote goes, that time's going to pass anyways.
Right.
You know what's crazy? I want to get both of your opinions on this. I struggle so hard with this concept today of hard versus effort. And we talked a couple podcasts back. You had something similar. So if I touch on that, I apologize for being repetitive. Hard versus effort. Because I know I've read a lot of really amazing books about people who had hard time. Like you being institutionalized as a child, that is hard.
Yes.
That is hard. Deciding that I need to eat chicken every day or twice a week or 5 times a week, that just requires some effort or change in direction, right? Discipline, right?
Yeah.
We have really gotten lazy, not only in language, but then by doing laziness in language, we've then created cultures within the mindset, I think, over the past couple decades that interchange the word hard with effort, lack of effort, laziness, whatever you want to call it. And I think that's a problem. I think that's a problem today where if people continually believe that everything's so hard, it's not hard. Then their life becomes hard. Then they get downtrodden. Then you see what you often see now. People just think that everything is just too difficult. It's easier to do less, to not try, to sit back, take what's given to me and find a way to exist. I think it's a really slippery slope when we don't use language appropriately in society and we start interchanging or changing the meaning of words that were traditionally instilled in one direction or another, and we start mingling them together. Because I'm telling you, effort and discipline is different than hard. I think of reading, and I would hand anyone a book, Victor... I can't remember the last name. The In Search of Meaning, where he was
Frankl.
Frankl.
Man's Search for Meaning.
Man's Search for Meaning. I mean, you read that.
Yeah,
that's fucking hard.
Yes.
That's a hard life.
Yes.
That's not that's not making the decision to leave my job and start something. There's a little bit of a difference there. That's hard.
Yeah.
But man, we really find a way to lump any discomfort or anything that just isn't going our way, or we think isn't going to go our way. We just label that as too difficult. We're not going to try. There's got to be an easier way to exist, and I'll go that direction. I don't get that. And the reason I'm asking both of you is, are you viewing things the same as I am? Do you see that out there, or am I imagining this?
I mean, I look at it, like, I use a different distinction right now.
Okay.
Like I said before the show, like I distinguish between hard and difficult.
Okay.
Like I equate effort and discipline as something that's hard to do. That's hard.
Okay.
Meaning it takes effort. Difficult means like there's a lot of external forces, like the man's search for meaning, like what that guy went through, like making complex decisions or dealing with complex situations. That's difficult. There's
like being a nuclear physicist. You just don't do that overnight.
Because there's external forces, right?
Okay.
Hard to me is that's internal. It's effort you are going to have to put out. Discipline you're going to have to engage in.
Okay.
That's hard. Difficult has that stuff in it, but there's also external forces that you can't control that makes the situation difficult. But I think people think things are hard, think things that are, in my mind, hard as difficult. I'm like, it's not difficult.
But why do we do
just
that?
Get the fuck up and do what you got to do.
But why do we... do you think that's more prevalent today because life's so easy?
People look... I'm sorry to say it, but people look for... If they're not where they are, people have a very hard time admitting it's their fault. That's what I see. I truly believe that. I think it's if they don't have what they want or someone has something that they don't, it's not their fault, it's someone else's fault.
Okay, but see this is if I believe what you said is true.
Okay.
Some people might not. I believe that's true. So let's go under the premise that that's fact, that it is like that.
Let's go there.
Think about how exciting that is if you really have the entrepreneurial mindset that most people are viewing their lives that way, because your competition is few and far between, because not everybody's got the right mindset to enter the fray.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Am I right?
Right. Yeah, you're right.
Absolutely. It's well, and again, that's the entrepreneur mindset, right? It's a different mindset. You're wired differently, and there's not a lot of people out there that are like that, right? It's
hard for me to ever grasp that, though, Rocco. I hear that all the time, and I believe that to be true because the numbers prove it.
It's
right?
super hard to grasp because when you think that way,
because it's so naturally,
yes,
like to be able to survive under the efforts of your own volition and your own creativity and your own hard work, and not be dependent upon someone or some other entity to give you money on a regular basis to survive. That does not bother my mental sensibilities. It doesn't scare me, and I can think of no other way I'd want to live.
Yeah.
But I'm told that those three beliefs that I have are not the norm, and I believe it, but it's hard for me not to understand why everybody wouldn't think that way because of the freedom that it gives you. The freedom, to me, supersedes everything else. The ability to live life on my own, by my own volition, and to live life and survive under my own efforts, to be able to make as much or as little as I want.
Sure.
To be able to keep my own schedule. That's so enticing, way more enticing than living by someone else's terms. But people don't do it.
Well,
why? I don't know. I don't get it. I don't know. Why don't they won't even try?
It's risk versus security. It's why we have employees, right? Some people value security over freedom. That's. I mean, it's in my mind. That's but that's really
heavy.
But that's how I mean, think about it.
Oh,
right?
No, I'm not disagreeing.
I mean,
with
being
you,
an employee is secure. I mean, in their mind, it's not secure because your job can be gone tomorrow, right? You have no control over the outcome. You just feel secure because someone else is paying you to perform a service, right? That's the employee mindset. They value security over freedom. Me and the three of us in this room, we're risk takers. You say there's a cliff and there's some cool shit on the bottom of it. I'm the dude that's going to run and jump. Like that's me. Like whether I know it's over the cliff or not, if I have that belief that like there's some cool shit over there, I'm going to sprint and jump. That's my mentality because I don't. That's freedom to me. But some people, I have friends that they value security, and that's okay. Like that's okay. Like that's. Not everybody's wired the same, and we need people to value security, or I wouldn't have employees.
I understand.
Like that's how it works. I mean, I don't know if you think the same way.
How did you make? What was the change for you? Like, did you always feel you had an entrepreneurial bug, or did you wake up one day with it? Was there an event in your life that pushed you in that direction?
You were talking about so many things, and I have so many things to say on everything that you said.
You now have the floor, my love.
Sorry,
no. So I talked forever, but I'm saying there are a couple things I want to say.
Good.
I find everything interesting. We're not the same. None of us are the same.
Thank
we
God.
all were brought up differently. You know, we have different perceptions, you know, just based on what we've seen, what we know, right? So, and not everybody is a risk taker, and that's okay. And like you said, you know, you wouldn't have an employee if we were all...
And we all have different levels of risk tolerance, right?
Absolutely.
I mean, because some people that are employees for companies go home and they gamble their life away. Yeah. And they have I think, a misguided use of risk, but they have risk. They're not completely, you know what I mean? So, but you're talking, for our conversation, we're talking occupational risk, right?
Right. But anything.
Right.
Like, we get on these podcasts. I know I've seen you on podcasts, and you speak for motivational reasons. Eric, obviously, you know, you're someone that's heard. I'm heard,
just nuts.
Right? Whether it's a magazine article or somebody, everybody wants to pick my brain.
Right.
And I think half the reason people want to pick my brain is because I put myself out there, as do you and you. I'm not afraid to share my story, okay?
Right.
So I'll share my story, and I've been on other podcasts and different things. And, you know, when you put yourself out there, you've got the people that are going to favor what you're saying, and they're going to listen to it, and they're going to take something from it, and hopefully they're going to make their life better because of it. That's the true reason I speak. I don't want to relive things. I only share things so that people don't make excuses, so they know that they can make it if they want to. You know, you can if you want to, or you can't if that's the way you want to go too, but it's all here and you're in control, right? So what I'm saying is, I'll have people, as any public figure, anybody that puts themselves out there, they'll have the people that are like, thank you for sharing. I'm going to take something from today. Just like somebody will take something from today. But then you will have the people that will say, you're only sharing that so somebody will feel bad for you. You want more people to like you. And here's the thing. No way. There's no way. Nobody would want to share the rawness of the things that I say. No one would embellish that because it's all on paper. I could have family members come on here and attest to it. I could have people that moved my paperwork in school attest to it. I have a social worker that follows me to this day that can't believe I've made it to where I've made it. Those people can attest to what I've done. Okay. So, you know, as we sit here and say, like, it takes a lot to get to a place where you feel confident enough to take risks, to believe in yourself, to do what maybe no one has done, to start a business from nothing, to, you know, and you're just paving the way for other people to do it. You know, for them to have their why the heck not me moment, you know? I've watched other people, and that's why I'm here. Because somebody shared their sad story with me, and I saw their sadness become joy, and then make a legacy for their children and their family. So my thing is this. We're all made up differently, you know? We all take different things from life. Some of us make excuses, and other people make moves. I make moves. Like, I can fall down to the ground. I can lose everything tomorrow. But while I'm down on the ground getting back up, I'm going to think of what my comeback story is going to look like.
And that's a complete mindset. But back to that audience thing that you mentioned.
Yes.
Jim Rohn is a business philosopher. I don't know if you're familiar with Jim. Jim is I think he's the quintessential business philosopher. Passed away in 2009. He was Anthony Robbins' mentor. When you see Tony Robbins walking on fire and all that stuff, Jim was not that. But he was the guy who gave Anthony Robbins the idea to talk about entrepreneurship. He had a famous story, and I'm going to butcher it, but I think it kind of gets to what you're getting to. He said when he used to give speeches at the Kiwanis Club or the Elks Club back in the 50s or the 40s, he would give these what he deemed to be motivational speeches. And then he'd give a room of like 100 people. And he would only get a handful of people at the end, like, you know, 4 or 5 people come up and talk to him about afterwards. Sometimes he said no one would go. Right. And he was told by a gentleman whose name was Earl Schoaf, who was the original motivational speaker in the early 1900s. Mr. Schoaf told him something of this effect. He said, whether you're a religious person or not, just hear me out. He told Rohn, he said, Jesus went to the mount to give the sermon, right? And out of the group of people who were listening to the sermon, there was a group of people that mocked and laughed him. There was another big group that looked around because they didn't know what was going on. They're just people that don't know what was going on. And there was a small amount that got it. He goes, Rohn said earlier in his career, he would puzzle and wonder why, you know, why won't what I'm saying resonate? Why do some people mock and laugh me? And then all of a sudden I realized because they're the mockers and the laughers. Why do some people look around like they don't know what's going on? Because those are the people that don't know what's going on. What you're really looking for is that small few, even if it's one, who gets it. And once you get past that hurdle that you don't need to understand why certain people just are comfortable being employees, why certain people are risk takers. And it's hard for me to do it because I look at entrepreneurship as being the only way to live because that gives all the freedom, right? But it's nonsense to try to figure out why people do what they do in reality because that's just who they are. And they have a right to be who they are. You know, we need to respect their right to do it. But I always thought that concept of Jesus being on the mountain giving the sermon and in how different sections of the audience reacted. And it's true. I mean, he was there to find the believers. He was there to find the people that actually could use what they was heard. And to try to, you're never going to get everybody.
No. You don't want to.
And you're always going to have the mockers and the laughers. You're going to have the people who have know what's going on. But, you know, out of that group of people, like you said, if you reach one person and you make a little change, even if that change in their life doesn't happen overnight, but if you plant a seed, that's the value of it. Do you feel both of you, question
Yeah.
for both of you. Do you both feel intrinsically driven to, I guess, esoterically speaking, give back, motivate, give back, share good ideas because of what your circumstances in life have brought you to with your own motivation and your own level of successes? Do you feel compelled to give back? Because sometimes I do, and sometimes I really don't. I mean, being bluntly honest with you, and it isn't being selfish for sake of being selfish or stingy or uncaring. It's just that over time, I get asked a lot, how'd you do this? What's the secret to this? And then when you do try to share, you often see that nobody generally acts on it anyways, and you get kind of defeated in that, and you almost sometimes think it's kind of a waste of time to even go there because they're not going to effing do it anyways. How do you deal with that struggle?
Yeah, I mean, if you're asking me, so I look
I'm
at
asking
it.
both of you.
Yeah, well, I mean,
I'm looking at you.
okay,
Rocco.
so
We're looking at you.
Okay, so
We're
I'm looking at you, kid.
so yes, I do feel an intrinsic need to attempt to guide or motivate other people, right? Like I feel very blessed where I am. I put in a lot of work. A lot of people helped along the way, and I'm very thankful for all of that. But to your point, I do believe that many times that I have been asked certain things, that it falls on deaf ears. But I always come back to, if I can change one person's life with something I say, that's all that really matters. Like we were talking before and we were asking about speaking. I'd rather speak for free to a group of high school kids than get paid $5 to $10 grand to go speak at a corporate event, because I have a better chance of impacting someone's life in that room of high school kids by something I say than getting paid to motivate and speak to a room full of corporate executives.
That really does speak to our society today, though, doesn't it?
It does.
When you think about the fact that Jim Rohn made a career out of going and speaking to IBM and Mobil Oil and Exxon Oil and then I think it was Amway and Herbalife and all these companies where that was motivating multi-level marketing companies that I mean, he was very successful doing that.
Right.
Is it society today that it's probably hard to light a fire under someone's ass today?
100%. I mean, I think. I mean, I could say the politically correct answer, or I could just say it like it is. People are fucking lazy. Like that's really what it boils down to. Like people want everything easy and quick. They don't want to. So trying to motivate people by telling them that, like right? Like, it's hard as shit to do what we do. Like, to build your business the way you have in the past 2 years. Like, you went through a lot of shit to get there. To build what I did over the past couple of years, you go through a lot of shit that no one sees. No. The stresses, the struggles, the sleepless nights, the holy shit, where's the money coming from? Like, that's scary shit. People are just fucking lazy. And I'm sorry, like, that's my belief. The older I get as an adult, and I believe the wiser I get, the more clearly I see that. Not everybody, but I do believe that's a big problem in society today. Because the technology, we've made it easy for people. I can go on my phone and have food delivered to my door in 30 minutes. I can have groceries. Life has become easy because of technology. So people think life in general should be easy. And it's
the expectations become they're brought down when you get all your entertainment.
Yeah, that's not how this works.
All your communications.
18-hour days. Like, sorry, like, you got to
see, as a young person, if I could grasp that concept as a young person, that would be exciting to me, because if most of the world is lazy like that, or content, okay, the competition.
100%.
I mean, the pathway to success, if I really dive into this, could be exponential. Right? Because no one really wants to compete with what I'm doing. No. I mean, I don't know. I guess my point is, I don't want to feel, with every day that goes by as I get older, I don't want to waste more time having conversations with people that I unfortunately have a good feeling that they're just not going to, no matter what I tell them or share with them, they're not going to take it to heart, and they're not going to do it. Maybe that's what's making your decision that you just don't want to do corporate speaking anymore.
Yeah, I think, look, as we get older, and maybe you two see it differently, but I think our circles change. right? The people we associate with changes, and those conversations change, right? Like I am in completely different circles today than I compared to where I was 2-3 years ago, and I think because I've chosen to surround myself with people where that stuff doesn't fall on deaf ears. We all help one another. We all motivate one another. We all talk about ideas and how to change the world. Not the world, maybe, but how to just grow as people, how to grow as business owners. And I think as you develop yourself as an entrepreneur and a business owner, those circles naturally evolve. And so I do, to your point, like I don't like having those discussions with people where you know it's not going to do anything. But I also believe that in giving my time to people, like that's the whole thing of kindness, right? Coming back to kindness, like that's my belief. That's who I am.
It's a tough balance, though. I mean,
it is,
because I know the charitable work that the hands-on charitable work that you do, and how many hours you put into it. And I see it, and I oftentimes look at it and wonder, in blunt question, do you get frustrated sometimes? Do you get frustrated that you're not being heard, or your best efforts to help some people in real need, and you see opportunities squandered? I mean, do the letdowns, or how do you manage the letdowns?
I don't really think I have any. Just being
honest.
What do you mean? Like, I don't really look at it in terms of like my feelings in it.
Okay.
Where you go, what if God places it on my heart, I do it. And you were kind of asking Rocco like earlier, what was his moment?
Yeah.
And my moment was I'm not the type of I don't have the right personality to work for someone. I had to.
I don't think either any of us have.
No, not in this room.
No, definitely not in this room.
No. So like, I'm a go-getter. I don't need you to like micromanage me, look over my shoulder. I've always just, if I want to turn it to gold, like it's gold, and I'm going to get up early and I'm going to arrive early and I'm going to get it done and it's going to be good quality work.
Right.
And I've always had people that want to look over, did you do this? And I take offense to that. Like, already know. If you tell me to do something, it's done, I struggled with that my whole life.
You don't play well with others, do you?
No. So then I knew, you got to run the show one day. But the reason I was like a prisoner to like that employee type thing, it was benefits. It was the fact that I needed health care for my kids.
Right.
So everybody sitting in this room is paying a big dollar for health care.
Yep.
Like I knew that I had to wait until, in the back of my mind, knew that wasn't a big thing anymore.
Right.
When the kids were older, they were getting the health insurance on their own through their employers. Then I could pay top dollar for mine.
Yeah, but you still had the plan to do it, see?
Oh, yeah.
See?
Oh, yeah. Everything's always been brewing. It's just hoping you would finally get your breakout moment, right?
Right.
So everything is just, it's interesting, like how it unfolds, how it plays out. But my thing, and I'm going to be honest, and I know that everybody listening, may not be of faith, but I was fed up. It was the end of 2018, and like I felt like I was always disappointing and getting dragged in the office and crying and just feeling defeated when I knew I was giving it everything I had.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I just was tired of the like that,
Right.
And I was like disappointed.
Right.
You should be happy in my mind. So I walked out of my manager's office and I looked back at him and I said, this is the last time you'll make me cry here. I walked out. My district sales manager currently had been chasing me for years and years and years. That night, as God is my witness, I put it all in and they've been waiting for me to do it. Typed it all up, sent it in. He called me the next day. He said, are you ready? So let's go. So like it was just that moment where it was like, this has to be better than this. Like I look over my whole entire life and you say like institutionalized had to be hard. Child abuse was hard. That was hard.
Yeah.
So then you go to this other place and even though you think like this is hard, it was better than this. So like I'm used to like this like the change. And like hard is what you make hard. If you make it hard, then it's gonna be hard. But like I look at being away and not being able to see the light of day or a car or the sunshine or the sun being on your face. I couldn't go to the refrigerator. I couldn't get something to eat.
Yeah.
I had to ask for a razor to take a shower and have somebody stand outside the door. Like I didn't get to see my friends. I didn't get to pick up the phone. You go through something like that, that's hard. Getting stripped away from everything you know.
That's my whole point.
I came up here and I'd be like, can I get a drink out of the refrigerator? And they're like, what are you talking about? They didn't know what I was talking about because they didn't know the struggle. You understand?
Yet you still have the patience to talk to people about their frustrations with everyday life. And that was my original point that I probably didn't articulate correctly, and I apologize. I don't know where you find the internal patience to do that. And because you hear people complain about everything. Someone comes to you and says, "Oh, Tiffany, this has gone bad for me," and in your mind you're going, "That's an easy answer. Go do this, and it's going to solve the problem." I mean, in your mind, it's saying that's a first world problem. Being locked away like that and everything you just described that you endured, that's hard. That's the definition of the word hard. But most people think inconveniences now are painfully difficult or hard. I don't get it.
No.
How do you deal with that?
But this was the next moment. So I leave in 2018 the office. I go and I do this. I walk to the Coriopolis Church of God. And I was Catholic all my life. Okay? Something I got into a trance and I said, I'm going to their service this Sunday morning. But I've been of faith all my life.
Right.
I'll never deny God. Right. So, but I walk in, I drop to my knees and I said, God, I cannot do it this way anymore. Like, I just need you to tell me where I'm supposed to go because this isn't working, you know? So I'm like, okay, be patient. You know that, like, I wasn't happy with what I was doing. I love it. I love insurance, but I wasn't happy. Like, I would go home every day and cry, and I'm like, this isn't it. So I really dived into the presence in the community. Doing the harvest fests and just being there with the kids and going to the school and kind of doing talks like he did. This is something I've actively done for years and years and years, and being a part of Coriopolis Youth Creations and being the vice president and let's think big. Let's get a community center for these kids. And I didn't start the program, but I've been sitting here saying Coriopolis needs this. And next month, we're doing it big. Right. It's opening. You know what I mean? And it's all of us just coming together and working for the sake of the kids so we can teach them how to cook and we can have cooking classes and we can have after school programs and me sharing this on here, it might touch ears, like we say, deaf ears. Maybe people don't want to hear what I have to say. But a kid that's going through the hell that I went through and thinks that they're not going to be anything and they're not worth anything, but they're talented, whether they're an athlete or a scholar, they just need somebody to speak life to them. And if I would pass today, God has blessed me and he trusted me with a little and I had nothing and I made something with nothing. He's given me more. He could trust me with that. I don't keep it for me.
Yeah.
It's I'll give the shirt off my back today if somebody needed it. Right. And that's what God wants me to do. He'll continue to prosper me because I'm going to bring people up with me. And I don't mean that I'm not going to do the work, but I will mentor you. I will speak life to you. I will show you the way. I will tell. I know I've saved a few lives in sharing this story because people have told me I didn't give up because you shared your story and I know that I can do this. Yeah. So I guess the thing is, do I get frustrated at times? Have I? Yeah. I mean, more so with my kids because I've made it look easy. I never had it so they didn't have it. They always did. If I had to work 2-3 jobs, I talk of a time that they don't know. And I don't want them to know. No child should ever have to know. But it's what's in it for me? Well, what are you going to do are you going to work? Because I'm not giving it to you.
Yeah.
You're going to work for it. You're going to learn. You're going to get your feet wet. I mean, it's just one of those things that, do I give things to people? Obviously. But, like, you can't continue to give to the same person who's not going to give to themselves. Like, you owe it to yourself. Like, this life isn't about things. My life isn't about the car I drive or what trip I went on or how fancy my house is. The life's not about things. But I want people to see the transformation from poverty to abundance in the person that deserves the thanks for that. It's me, obviously, because I had to take what God gave me and used it. But, like, I'm doing right by people.
Right.
Like, I don't feel like I said it, and I'll say it a million times. God didn't say, you're going to be the best insurance agent in the world. No, that's not what he said. He put me out there to show the struggle, to show when you were down. I've made mistakes. I haven't always been a good person. I haven't always been the person that I am today. I did what I needed to do to survive. And I'm not gonna, I mean, I'm here because but I've hurt people along the way. I've went back and made amends to those people. I just want people to see that it doesn't matter how far you've gone the wrong way, you could bring it back.
And I think that's definitely what anyone that rationally listens to you speak in any of the context that you speak it can certainly get. I mean, and again, it doesn't have to resonate with everyone in that audience. It just has to resonate with that one child, that one person, or hopefully more than that. But I just give you credit because I will tell you, you have something in you, whether it's a passion, whatever it is, that you can work through the mockers and the laughers, or the people that don't know what's going on in that audience. You're able to see through them and just move on your way. And a lot of people can't, and I probably have a shorter fuse, Rocco. I will tell you, when I maybe I'm just frustrated because it goes back a little ways with me. So I started the guitar business when I left corporate America. I had some very special friends of mine that I wanted to bring along on this ride because I viewed it being so easy. Internet was new, eBay was new, buying cheap and selling high. It was like taking candy from a baby.
Right.
To me, what I failed to recognize was that my risk tolerance was much different than everybody else's. I couldn't see that.
Yeah.
Like, why don't my friends just do this? The guy's got a lot of money in the bank. Take 20 grand, buy these guitars, turn around and sell them, start your own little business, piece of cake.
Yeah.
But the people that I wanted to bring along didn't want to, and I couldn't grasp that. Then there were the people on the fringe who begged me to show them how. And when I just, sure, it's real easy, here's how to do it. And then when they wouldn't do it, that just was a trend, and it just continued. That the people would ask questions, they would inquire, how'd you do it? How'd you acquire this? How did this work out for you? And I just kept saying the same thing. And, you're giving the little keys to the kingdom all the time, but they don't grab the key and put it in the hole.
Right.
And I, for the life of me, over a 20-year, 25-year period, I'm just at the point now where, like, I just don't want to talk about it anymore because, whether it was the guitars or real estate, whatever, it really came down to just doing my own thing, getting up, working, and being rock-headed and being consistent. Yeah. And you can't freaking give the keys to the kingdom for that because that stuff's intangible. You just have to do it.
Yeah. And I also believe, to your point, I think everybody does it differently, right? So what works for you is not going to work for me, and vice versa. I think a common thread is being consistent and persistent in what you do. Yeah. But I think the way I operate as a business owner may be completely different than the way the two of you operate.
Or as people. We operate as
exactly.
people.
We all have different perspectives. We all view life differently. We all view business differently. So I think, when it comes to, like, the keys to the kingdom, right? I don't think we can give anybody the keys to the kingdom.
It's too easy. Yeah, but it was my immature mind at the time where it was all new to me, and I'm like, this is so easy.
Yeah,
and it was, and I had some of my dearest friends that jumped in and they said they wanted to do it, and then I just saw them sitting around doing nothing, and I just couldn't understand, because in my mind, what I was not taking into account was how I was wired, right? The entrepreneurial aspect of the risk tolerance, the drive. You can, that's the one, you can give the process to somebody.
Yeah.
You can give the process. You can say, okay, go real estate. How many people have said, oh, Eric, I'd love to be a real estate agent. I said, well, do you want to be a real estate agent because you see other agents have lifestyles, maybe me included, that's appealing to you? Or do you see us writing up contracts and going to inspections and arguing with other agents or arguing with appraisers or arguing with banks or seeing a deal fall apart 4 months in? Do you see all that stuff? Or are you just seeing us driving a nice car that you perceive and living in a decent house? What do you want? Why do you want to be a real estate agent? Do you really want to provide value and help your other fellow human? What's and as soon as you really put it out there like that, maybe not so cutting, but I put it out there, then you realize it seems to me that people want to be a real estate agent because they think it's easy or they think that it provides a nice life.
Well,
I don't know.
I look at it, the analogy I would use is everybody wants to know how to turn on the light switch, but they don't want to know how to wire the house.
Right.
Like you've got to be wired a certain way.
Yeah.
You know.
Good.
It's easy to go over and turn the light on and wow, it's illuminated. Like this is awesome, but all the shit behind the wall and all the wiring,
especially
all the stuff, right? That's what I mean. So that's why I use the example because we're in a very well lit room. But that's really it. Like you have to have the wiring, right? For that light switch to go on, for it to be what this is, the wiring has to be there, and not everybody's wired that way. I can show you, yes, that switch makes this room look like this, and it's fucking amazing. But there's a bunch of shit in the walls. There's a bunch of wiring.
That's my electrician.
Right. But that comes down to the mindset, right? Coming back to what you said earlier, your mindset. If you don't have the right mindset in anything, be it entrepreneurship, business, life in general, you're not going to succeed. If you don't have it's about having a positive mindset. If you break it down to the bare fundamental, that's it. If you choose to see positive shit happens. If you choose to be negative shit happens. That's the fundamental basic principle you have to understand. And I believe everything else is built on top of that. In business, in life in general. You have to get that first. If you think positive shit happens. If you think negative shit happens. It's your perspective.
You agree with that?
I do. Like a lot of times, as you talked about, your circle changes.
Let's talk about that.
So, I mean, obviously, if you look over, if you're doing anything right, I feel like your circle should change over time.
Your circle of influence, friends, what are we talking about?
I mean, influence, friends, I mean, I guess if you're aspiring to do something different, you're going to need different people around. Because I know my mindset when I was 17 is different than today, right? Even in my 20s to today.
Right.
I always say I wish I knew what I knew now.
Of course.
Because I would have moved differently.
Right.
But, back to the circle of friends, I'll get with the circle of friends, which is generally like educated, professional people that are aspiring to do something, influence people. But, they'll always say to me, you don't need to share your story anymore. Don't share your story anymore.
Really?
Yeah, because see, I think
really,
and here's why.
Okay.
Like, vulnerability makes people uncomfortable.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yep. That's
So
right
even
out of the
like
Cozza textbook.
I didn't know we were gonna go to this today. But I'll be honest.
Well, here we are.
To me, sharing.
Yeah.
But I think that a lot of people
course.
ask me, like somebody came to do something on the blessing box. And it was like, people want to know what makes me tick. Like, how did you just be, why?
And you're more comfortable getting into it with folks than either him or I are. I think that's my overall point. I just, out of frustration, I don't want to deal with it anymore. But I'm not as charitable as you either. So we're different that way.
Right.
But you're comfortable. I think you're comfortable and you're resolute in the mission of showing people that you can come from difficult circumstances and build nothing into something amazing. Because you're a living testament to that.
Yeah.
But the test, that's it. It's the testimony. So like I'm tired of hearing it. That's not for your ears. Then you just shut me off, right? Yeah. And you let my story be known to somebody else that needs to hear it.
Like that Jim Rohn thing. Sermon on the Mount, right?
Yep.
So, and I feel that. And I haven't always felt that way. I've shared on social media and you're like, my friend. Stop. Because to be criticized for people that know nothing about you to come in with.
Well, I'm always, your story should be shared every day, constantly. I just don't, I feel bad when I think it's because I didn't know you quite as well at the time, but I viewed it as if you were taking something, some ridiculous comment by someone on the fray. And I didn't want you taking that stuff to heart because you're way better than that nonsense.
But I have. Because maybe you just don't always understand your purpose, okay?
Okay.
So so I'll be with professionals they're moving and shaking and they're doing their thing, you know? Like we are together here. We're doing what we want to do, you know what I mean? And we're reaching for the stars and, you know, we're trying to achieve our goals and stuff like that. But let us not lose sight, though, of who we are. Like, you know, of course, you know, social media, Facebook, Instagram, whatever it is, it tries to portray perfection.
Yeah.
I'm not perfect. My gray hairs are out. You know, I don't do all the, you know, things to look I am me. Perfectly imperfect. Like the way I was intended to be. There's no I love that people are out there, you know, utilizing like lip fillers and, you know, like Botox and, you know, they want to be looked at as perfect. That's not my legacy.
Yeah.
My legacy is about struggle, but overcoming any and all obstacles that were set against me. It's about resilience. It's about coming up and falling down and it makes people uncomfortable. People are like, oh, we're not going to talk about that again. Like somebody's going to cry or something. I don't listen. It's okay.
So why are they uncomfortable? Why do you think the average person, boy, this is a good conversation topic. Why does the average person, because I don't think they're saying it out of they don't want to hear it again. They don't want to hear it again because it makes them uncomfortable.
Of course it does.
But why is that? What is it? Give me reasons why the average person does not want to hear inspirational things. Besides the obvious guilt of their own.
Everybody wants happy. Okay? I say this all the time.
Okay.
Like, you could be married to someone and everything's going good and you're thriving and stuff like that. Let you get hit with an illness, okay? Where you have to be taken care of every day or something changes in your life. Is that person still going to remain solid with you? Like, I just feel like everybody wants it when it's thriving and it's good, but nobody wants to, like, relive the pain. That's why we have pain medication and we have drugs and, you know, we have alcoholism and we have so many things because everybody's trying to drown out the truth. The truth is the truth. The truth is the truth. And I give it to people that could bring it. Like, people are like, I don't need therapy. Okay. Like, I don't do therapy now. I don't, you know, but I mean, I wouldn't be opposed to it. I'm sure deep down somewhere in there, I need it. And like, you know, I mean, if you don't take care of things,
right?
If you don't like attack it and like put it out there, then what are you going? What are you going to drown it down? Because you're just killing yourself when you're drowning it down. You know, so many people are just afraid to face reality. Well, I live reality every single day of my life. I'm not drowning it out. I voted off alcohol because I've seen alcoholism. Drugs just, I mean, what is that? That just destroys people. I probably have more pain than most because I'm not taking a pain pill. I'm not doing that because I lived the whole life of I watched people kill themselves. You know, like, or destroy other people's lives, you know, because they were in great pain. Like, I think at some point in your life, you have to, like, the light switch has to click. You got to stop being the victim. You have to look back. And even though my stepdad was awful to me, and I feel like he in turn made my mom, like, influenced her to be, you know, awful to me, I forgive them because they don't know. You know what I mean? So at some point, you even have to forgive the people that hurt you. You have to try to take a positive from the negatives and the things that have gone on in your life and just face the things that hurt. Just, you know, because, you know, if you don't want me to talk about it, if you want me to act like I made it, they're like, you made it. Made what? At what point do you make it? What does that mean? You know what I mean? Like,
it's so self-defined.
Do you know, like, I mean, yeah, I made it. I'm alive. I've lived to see 46 years old. Heck yeah. I can't believe it. But like, and I'm so like happy about that. But at the end of the day, like, the reason I'm here, don't try to dim why I'm here. I'm not here to be the millionaire.
Right.
I don't believe that.
Right.
My legacy is just so people see it. Just see it. Watch it. Look. You know? And when somebody speaks my eulogy, I hope that they say, like, you know, it was rough. But look what she was able to do with her life. Look at the pain. And she used her pain for good.
Right.
She helped somebody else. She
it.
gave to somebody. If I make $1 million, rest assured, it's probably 75% of what my million is going to go to other people. Do you like? I'm content. I don't need anything else. My bills are paid. I eat. I have a roof over my head, and I'm safe. So if I can take whatever it is that I have and give it to somebody else, I'm going to give it to them.
Yeah.
You know, that's the way I live my life. Like, I'm never going to be rich. Like, I don't believe that because my heart's too big and I don't want to see people suffer.
Yeah,
you know?
I get it.
Do you know what I'm
Yeah,
and I think
totally
God
get it.
rewards me for that. Like, he'll say, okay, if he told me to empty out, if I walk out of here and I see somebody that's hungry or there's a kid out there and they ask me for something, rest assured, I always tell a kid, if your parents can't pay for you to play a sport, knock at my door. You know, a young man wanted to do a dugout project, and he came to my door, and he had a vision for the Cornell dugouts.
I'm aware.
And he came in, and he's like, Miss Tiffany, this is what I want to do. And I'm like, okay, well, you have to call the borough, and you got to call the school. And if you get the borough on your side and they say we can build dugouts and you call the school and you go to the school board meeting and they say yes, you come back to me with that folder and we'll do it.
Yep.
And he came back to the door.
That's what you
I
did.
was like, yes, young man, yes. You know, and that's what we're talking about. Like, you come to me, I'll give you instruction. I will help anybody, but you're going to have to do some work.
Yeah, and I think that's the key. So that young man is a diamond in the rough, someone that you could reach.
But that's that one part. Look.
But how many? We have to be able to, Rocco. We have to be able to be okay with not being able to reach everyone or the great majority of the people. You're just not going to reach. I think. I mean, I know I struggled with it, and I probably still do struggle with it.
Yeah, but you have to look at what's your responsibility, right? Is it your responsibility to reach everybody? No, it's not, right? It's not my responsibility to reach everybody. It's my responsibility to give the message that hopefully reaches someone. So you kind of got to look at it from a different perspective, right? Like, I don't feel the guilt of, you know, like coming back to the vulnerability, right? Like, why do people get uncomfortable? Because it's fucking ugly. It's ugly. Like we talk about Jordan Peterson and, you know, going back to that shadow self. We all have ugliness inside of us, and until you can look at it and embrace it, that vulnerability, people don't like it. It makes them feel uncomfortable because it's exposing the monster inside of them that they've kept hidden. They've kept deep down. They won't look at it. They won't embrace it. So when you start talking about painful situations or ugly things or just difficulties in life to someone that hasn't embraced that themselves, they just don't want to deal with it. It makes them so uncomfortable. I've watched it happen and just in my life. And I think, you know, coming back to your question, like, why that responsibility, right? It's not my responsibility as a father, a business owner, is to, you know, I look at it as a father, my role is to show my kids the way. Show them the path, not walk down the path with them, not pull them down the path, to say, here's the path, and I will be your bumper. Meaning they're going to go off path. I will always be there to catch them and make sure they don't fall too far one way or the other, but to show them the path with people, with my employees, with people that work for me, with people that I surround myself with. My responsibility is to impart to them the knowledge I've learned. What they choose to do with it, that's on them. That's not my responsibility. Their actions are not my responsibility. Sharing what I know that could potentially help them is my responsibility. That's how I look at it.
That's your responsibility because you choose it to be.
Because I choose it to be. Yeah, exactly. I choose it to be. Like I was always raised where if you have a gift or an ability, share it with other people.
Amen.
Like don't like my mother and my grandmother raised me very well to treat. That was my whole TED talk was about how my grandmother was this influence on me, and it was about like having gifts. If you help people, like share them with people, right? And so I look at like the struggles I've went through and the difficulties that got me to where I am today, a 20-year overnight success. And I'm far from where I want to be. And I'm the most flawed human there is.
Amen.
But there are things that I've learned that I think that if I can share that with other people and save them the pain that I went through, that's my responsibility. It's not my responsibility to make sure they take what I say and use it. Right. That's on them.
Because we really can't do that for any human.
You can't do that. Like I can't do that. Like for my kids, I will do that as much as I can. But like my son's 19, he's in college. I feel like his mother and I and his stepmom and stepdad, like we raised him well. And my whole thing with him was if he learned one thing from me, I wanted it to be work ethic. Yeah. I said, I don't give a shit what you do. You be the fucking hardest worker in the room.
Yes.
Like that's what I remember the moment my mom told me that when I was a kid. She, I was always a good student, like straight A student. I brought a C home. C home, and it was just like devastating. Like, what the fuck? I got a C. Yes. It was honors biology. This prick teacher, just a dick. Like, but and she looked at me, and it was kind of like, well, if that's the best you can do. And I'm like that. And we got in this discussion, and she said, look, I don't care what you become. She's like, if you want to become a doctor, a lawyer, a garbage man, a mechanic, all I care is that you are the best one there is. In that moment, like still to this day, I remember we were sitting at our kitchen table, it clicks in my head, and it's how I operate. Like I want to instill that in my kids. It's about being the best they can, whatever path they choose. It's about being the best they can be. I don't know how we got here, but that's
good.
No, I love that. I love
that.
Good.
Well, we talked about responsibility in terms of like you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make a horse drink.
For my kids, that's my responsibility to teach them that one thing, and that's what I feel like I've taught my son because he's a hard worker. I love the kid to death. He's just an amazing human being, a kind young man, a good young man, and he's a hard fucking worker. And my daughters are coming up the same way. And that's my whole goal. But to people outside of those three, it's not my responsibility to make sure they do the work. It's my responsibility to share with them things that they could use to make their life better. But once I share that, that's on them.
So back to let's talk about that sphere thing again.
Yeah.
Is there a difference between, it's semantics, but let me give your thought on something. When I say my circle and my sphere, to me there's two different words. The circles could be 5 to 10 people in this world that I know. I can count them. I guess the hip term today is ride or die or whatever.
Your tribe.
Whatever. That's another those are people that I know that if I was struck, if I was in a car accident on Route 22, I could call them and they'd come and get me, right?
Yes.
And then the sphere is a broader term of people that are in and you wouldn't maybe even hang out with these folks socially. You wouldn't choose to, but you would contact them for business and feel comfortable doing it, or on personal ventures, right?
Yeah.
So, talk about the change in your circle that has, if it has changed over the course of maybe the last 20 years, or through the course of your business life and entrepreneurship. And how did it change? And were there any hard feelings? Were there friendships lost? Or did you have to make some tough decisions at some point to not hurt anybody, but kind of move away from certain people because they were not in alignment with what you either believed or where you were going? Did you need to do that?
Yeah. You want to take that first?
Yeah, sure. I do believe it's changed. We kind of were talking about that earlier, where it's hard. Because in order to do something like we've done, people don't see the work that goes into getting it done. So it's almost like you have to focus forward.
Okay.
And you spend a lot of time trying to decide what you need to do and what you have to do. And I have to say while I've been building my business, there hasn't been much social life, just because like I had so much, obviously I would do some client stuff, and things of that nature, or volunteering, but like to go out with your friends, I mean, COVID hasn't helped that either, but for me, there hasn't been much of that. So like everybody that's been in my circle is pretty much like my day-to-day, like my customer service representative, or like, who's turned to be like a ride or die. Like if I look over, that's who's there. And just like your family, and like maybe my circle would be like my pastor and his wife, and that, because when you're transitioning from what once was to what is today, you need people to speak life to you. Like, and I mean, I have no problem with somebody telling me, you're off the road. Like, you need to get back on the road constructively, though. Like, just be like, come on back.
I think we all need that.
Let's get back on the wagon, or where have you been? And those are the type of people that I want around. I don't want people around me that are going to talk down to me, that aren't going to be supportive. If you're there in the low, you're going to be there in the high. If you're not there in the low, you're not going to be there in the high. And, sometimes I carry people on my back like a backpack. Like, you watch these shows where, like, celebrities, they made it, or they get to this place and they feel like they have to take care of everyone that's been there along the way, and then they demise. It's like, because, I mean, things only stretch so far. Yeah. You can only do so much. So that's something that I'm learning, that I don't owe anything to anyone. I love and absolutely admire, and I'm thankful for anyone and everyone that's helped me along the way. But just like I don't owe anybody anything, they don't owe me anything. Like, anything you do is extra. You know how you say we live in this like instant gratification entitled. If I get to this place that you probably thought I'd never get to, when I get to there, I don't owe you like, well, remember when I used to, no. No.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't like the manipulation and the things that come with, once you get somewhere. It's like everybody that's been a part of it along the way. Like, you wouldn't even talk to me in the grocery store before, yet now.
Well, they want a piece of it.
Yeah.
It's just a different, like, I'm so grateful to sit in the place that I have, and, and have so many people that have helped me along the way, and that still, like, anything I do, they're loyal, and I love them for it, but, like, I will not be manipulated. I am kind, and I am,
You have to draw the line somewhere.
Yeah, so I think, like, in that situation, I've had to knock some people off. And then it's just like, well, you're, you forget where you came from, and, you think you're too good and stuff. No, it's not that. It's just, like, I can't take you. Like, you haven't exhibited, like, you're still stuck in our senior year. Like, you're going out to the bars and the clubs, and like that segment of my life is over.
Yeah. It's choices. It all comes down to what you want in life, and it's the choices you make. And you're right, people.
I can't be in the wrong place at the wrong time. I'm not going out to, like, while you're getting like a misdemeanor or a felony. That's not my life.
There used to be a crazy joke that I heard say, and I didn't. And for anyone listening, I did not say this joke.
Okay.
But it rang true to me. I had a friend of mine that was at PageNet a year or two before I left, and he came from a very ethnic working class background, hometown, very similar to Coriopolis.
Yeah.
I did not say this, but it resonated with me. And small in the community. It's not too far from here. And his wife had asked him if he was going to go to his high school reunion. Now, at that time, it would have been maybe his 15th year. And he told his wife, he says, listen, if I want to see any of those people, most of those people, all I have to do is go down the bar X, Y, or Z, or go down to the food land at the end of town.
Right.
I can see those people every damn day.
Yeah.
The concept was that most of the people that were important to him growing up, because unfortunately the area he grew from, they never left there.
Yeah.
and that's probably not fair, but mentally and career wise, they never left there for sure. They didn't do much with their life, and that's okay because we all have a right to have the lives we want.
Right.
But that wasn't in alignment with the kind of sphere or the kind of circle that he needed to create to continue on the pathway of achievement.
Yeah.
And that resonated with me. And
absolutely.
I'm not saying that all of my chums and gal pals from my time growing up here are in the bars or working at the Giant Eagle. I'm not saying that. But sometimes you have to get out of your hometown, especially when you come from a rougher area or a difficult ethnic or working class area where there's not a lot of opportunity. You've got to somehow get into a different circle. You can either create a different circle or get into a different sphere. And man, that really resonated with me. When I started the entrepreneurship with the guitar business and then reaching out, oh my gosh, I have vendors here in this state, and you build relationships with business people, dynamic people that are building products that I'm going to market. Your whole sphere organically changes. But then you step back for a second and say, wow, I have lost touch with so many people that at once held a rather important part in my life. And it's tough to maneuver that. I wouldn't even give it, I don't even know how to give advice like to my son as he gets older. Like, how do you let go sometimes of people that are holding you back? And I hate to put it so boldly, but there's some validity to that.
Oh, yeah.
I agree. I mean, I grew up, in Newcastle, which is kind of like small working class town. Not a lot of opportunities there. I think when I graduated college, I came home for 2 days. Packed my shit, moved to Pittsburgh. Worked as a trainer for a year before I went to law school. Now, I'll always remember where I came from. Like, that town made me who I am. It taught me grittiness. It taught me a lot of things about life. And I'm still friends with people from that town, from growing up. And I've reconnected with a lot of people recently from that hometown because it's where I can. And it's interesting because there was such a long period of my life, right, where I just moved on from my hometown. Like, my family's still there, but I had moved on, right? And my circle changed. And this is kind of maybe a different perspective. And my circle changed, and I was really involved in business. And that dynamic circle changed. I'm really the close people in my life, here, they're all business owners. We're all talking about ideas. We're all not that I got rid of my close friends from college. We just don't see each other as much because our lives are different. We all have kids. We're all doing different things.
Different too.
Exactly. But it's interesting. Like, over the past year or so, like, I've reconnected with a lot of people from my hometown, and I think that has helped me even more.
Interesting.
Because I forgot, there was a part of me that I forgot about.
Interesting.
That raw, gritty part of me that really got me to where my roots. Like, not that I forgot about it, but it's just you're not connecting with people from that life, so you don't remember who you really were. And by reconnecting with, like, my best friend from growing up, a lot of other friends of mine from my hometown, it made me realize that what's really important. And I just got a different perspective on life. And but I think I had to go through a lot of the things I went through with my business to grow it to a certain point where I wasn't focused on revenue. I wasn't focused on I could, like, take a step back in life and start saying, okay, I'm 43 now. I'm in that phase of life where we're just, like, sprinting now. Like, I feel like it's a sprint. Like, I'm running and I hit my stride, but it's not about money anymore. It's not about the success of the business anymore. It's about, what do I want my life to look like 10 years from now?
Right.
And that's all parts of my life, not just the business side, not just the financial side, but everything. And it's interesting, by, like, reconnecting with certain people, it made me take a step back and realize, there are other things I wasn't putting value on that actually are very valuable to me. So I think my circle almost comes full circle. At this point in my life. Now, to your sphere of influence, like, that's something that I always want to expand that. Yes. Like, that's something that I'm constantly trying to expand.
Not everybody does, though.
Well, because I think
those are not achievement-based folks, which is okay.
Yeah, you have to understand the benefit of having a dynamic sphere of influence, because I know that I can, if any one of my clients needs anything, like literally anything, I can call 1 or 2 people and get it. I'm like 1 or 2 people removed
Right.
from anyone. And that's what's so interesting to me. Like I look back, I came from this small town, like grew up very modestly. And I said this I was on David's podcast. And I said this, because I'm doing that Man of the Year campaign, raising money. And my one good friend of mine, he got this famous painter to donate paintings. And he's like, oh, I can call Conor McGregor's agent. And like, it's interesting. Like I took a step back. I'm like, wow, like I'm at that stage in my life. My sphere's that way where one person in that sphere is one phone call away from that type of person. I'm like, I'm just like a dude from Newcastle. Like I grew up, playing baseball and just doing stupid shit in a small hometown. But then you kind of take that step back and look at where you are in life. So to me, like that's what I try and tell my son, and I'll tell my girls as they get older. Like your circle's one thing, your sphere of influence is completely different, and that is like you want to expand that, grow that,
100%.
treat everybody with kindness. Like don't burn bridges. Like that's how I look at that, because that's an extreme. If you're going to be a business owner, that's extremely important to your success.
Oh, it's very powerful.
Super powerful, super fucking powerful, and people don't get that. Like it's just, I'm a business owner. I'm like, yeah, but what's your sphere? Like, what's your circle of influence? Like, that's what really values your business.
Oh, yeah.
That's how, they say your net worth is based upon your network. And that is the truest fucking statement.
It just certainly is. Yeah. Who can you pick up the phone call with ideas? Or have ideas enhanced? Or, quite frankly, if you're in dire straits and you need some assistance, who can you pick the phone up?
Absolutely.
Those are the questions I think that we need to pose to ourselves and examine on a regular basis.
Right.
I mean,
relationships are something you have to examine on a regular basis. I think, putting time into friendships or or not exactly. You have to examine that. Like it's like I love my close friends to this day, but do we spend as much time together as we did 5 years ago? Absolutely not.
No.
I might see them once every 3 months, 4 months. Where before it was like twice a month, 3 times a month we were going out.
Commonality is a part of it, I think, but it's also direction and philosophy. And where I've lost, and it's a terrible way to put it, but I will say it, in some instances I've lost, and other times I've moved away. I've had to move away from childhood friends or people that I grew up with because just the interests are just different, and they're sometimes their direction or level of achievement-based goals or drive is not in congruence with mine. And I found myself early on, and it happened a lot when I first became an entrepreneur. I spent a great amount of time kind of spinning my wheels, having a little success and kind of not knowing what to do with it. And then spending time with the same people, but in the end, I wasn't growing and I wasn't continuing to take that business further because I wasn't surrounding myself with people that could actually help propel me forward. Not use, but you know the deal. It's imperative to make sure that you are surrounding yourself with people who can contribute to your direction. And it sounds very selfish, but sometimes you need to be selfish.
Well, I mean, and contribute to your happiness. Like, we're all at the stage in life. Like, I don't want to be around dickheads or negative people. Like, I don't have time for that shit. Life is short. Like, plain and simple. Like, I was looking at my daughter this morning, Ellie, who's 11. And I'm just like, you're like a little fucking woman now. Like, but then, like, I looked in my phone and I had a picture of her from when she was like 2 riding in a shopping cart.
Right.
I'm like, that's fucking 9 years. It just blew by. And I'm like, life is short. And and when you realize that, you operate differently. But I think people just think life is long. I have plenty of time to do certain things.
Well, you do that in your 20s and 30s.
Absolutely.
For sure, right?
You hit 40, you're like, holy shit, I'm at the halfway point.
Do you think 40 is a big monumental year?
Yeah.
Because I thought for me 50 was.
40, I'm not there yet.
40, I guess, well, yeah, and I get it.
We're younger than you are.
Yeah, I know, but I didn't internalize 40. For 40 for me was like the world was on fire in a good way. Like I had contracts, and I started working with Paul Stanley of Kiss during my 40th birthday. I was signing contracts, so everything just kind of was exploding around me in a positive way. So I didn't take it in. 40 seemed like 30 to me. It wasn't until I got to 50. when I realized I really got to start getting my shit together mentally.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
As not as a person, but certainly entrepreneurial wise and direction wise.
Yeah.
And I will tell you, Sphere has continually been amazing. This show is certainly contributing to the Sphere.
Yeah.
Part of it's just crazy, but I've had to make some really difficult decisions on the circle end the last 4 or 5 years, and they were a little uncomfortable for me. And I can't say they're always well to maneuver that. So my question is, have you had uncomfortable moments realigning your circle in the past couple of years, and anything you learned from, or is there anything you can take away from that, good or bad?
Yeah, that's a good question.
I mean, I think that people will say like, "Oh, Tiff, you're lame. You never want to do anything. You don't want to go anywhere. You know, you're always home." But like, whether it's home or office or whatever, like, I'm always doing something.
Yeah.
That's. I mean, if you look at my activity or you follow me on anything, like, where's the time coming from? Like, I'd love to every night go to the bar, every night go to the restaurant, or follow you on all your endeavors and stuff like that, but like, I mean, it's cute when you're drunk.
I have no interest
it's cute.
It's cute
any of that when you're falling out of your chair on like a Facebook, but like no one wants to see like their insurance agent or the like the leader of a nonprofit like falling out of their chair. Like, I often look at people.
TMZ likes to see that stuff.
No, but here, this is what I'm saying. Like, to the people that like they're so super talented, gifted, gifts from God, and like they're out there and they're doing big things, and then like they beat the living heck out of somebody on the street, and somebody records it. Career, boom, you're good, bye bye.
Right.
Or like what? Like, I've worked too hard. Like, you know, like I'm not gonna go somewhere like where like someone's gonna push my buttons, be drunk, start an argument with me, which it will happen.
Isn't it a shame in a way though? We really have to be ultra guarded now about positions where we go, who we're seen with. That's a horrible thing to say. I mean, seen with, unfortunately, if you stay out of bars, quite frankly, and again, I'm not telling anyone to take my advice. You live the life you want, the way you want. I have found if you stay out of bars, less opportunity for that nonsense can happen.
I remember, like, in my younger days, like, fists would be thrown, like, next thing you know, someone shoving you. But
there wasn't cameras everywhere, you see.
Oh,
like,
we lived in an era where we were
privacy.
okay.
We had no privacy. We had privacy then. Yeah. We had situational privacy, or we had quote unquote public privacy.
And I look back.
We don't have public privacy anymore.
No, looking back at college, I'm like, man, if we had these phones in college, like, holy shit! Like, I don't know if I'd be a lawyer.
She'll tell you. I bartended. I won't use the word seedy, but I bartended a rather sketchy bar for a year, moonlighting as a councilman in my hometown. So the whole thing was dynamically bizarre. And I'm very glad there was not social media or camera phones or any kind of camera permitted in the bar during those times, because it was just, you know, I don't know how. We had
fun there.
But I look back at that as an amazing year of my life. You know, there were relationships. Yeah. Most of those people in those relationships, all present company not included, I don't see anymore. Our lives have taken different directions and so forth. But I wouldn't change anything. I just think that we have to be discerning now more than ever how we spend our time, who we spend our time with, and where we go. Because for the most part, you know, all the good that you will do in this life will probably never be recorded. But anything you do bad will somehow be in front of a camera.
I can't do it.
That's the. I mean, it's sad that we have to think that way. That we have to worry about what we say, who we say it to, what we do, who we surround ourselves with because of cancel culture. Yeah,
and you're right. And I had this interesting conversation. It was so good. I mirrored what you just said in a conversation, and the person said, well, you know, we shouldn't be insulting her. I said, listen, back up. A person that deals in kindness is always going to care about their audience or the other person. It's a foregone conclusion that I don't enter conversations in this current sensitive or 20 years ago with the intention to hurt anybody at all, ever. So I'm operating with the same set of cards as I did back then. What Rocco is extrapolating on is those set of decent cards that lead with kindness aren't good enough anymore, because now you need to parse every single word that comes out of your mouth, because there's new definitions for everything and new angles constantly that people are taking offense of. So that new environment makes it to the point where it's keeping people that need to be in the dialogue out of the dialogue for fear that they're going to be mistaken in their intent. That is frustrating. As a realtor, it's extremely frustrating.
I mean, as a lawyer, and I think probably over the past 6 months, I've kind of gravitated back towards, I'm not going to pull punches anymore, because that's not my authentic self. Like I had to really ask myself that question, right? Like we have this cancel culture. You know, I'm a lawyer. I own a business. I don't have crazy viewpoints.
Right.
I have my viewpoints on certain things in life. But for a while there, I was just very, not really saying anything about it, but that wasn't my authentic self. Like I'm opinionated as fuck. Like if I have an opinion on something, I'm not trying to convince you. I'm just trying to get you to see my point. If you see my point, game over. Like it's done. Like, that's all I want. Like I'm not. I don't have to convince you that I'm right. Make up your own mind. Just understand this is my perspective and my opinion, and it has validity. Like that's it. So I just started getting back to that. That's me, and if the opportunity presents itself, I'm going to say what's on my mind. Whether you like it or not, that's your opinion. That's your fault, not mine. And but people have gotten so afraid because the mob mentality, the cancel culture mentality. It's like if you say something that the majority of people in this group don't like, we're going to find a way to fucking cancel you.
Yeah.
And that's horseshit. That's not how it should be.
It's
fucking America.
I do think though that free speech will. I'm probably going to get bashed for saying this, but I believe that we're in a temporary time right now. I do not believe that this lunacy of examining and parsing what you did on social media 10 years ago or 15 years ago, or something that someone said they heard you did when you were a kid, and now is being brought up in order to hurt you today because someone doesn't like you. I don't think this nonsense will last forever. I don't think it'll go off because I don't think it's tenable and it's not sustainable. I think we're in a weird time. We have to kind of maneuver through it, but I don't like the idea that if you are a person that is dealing with humility and kindness, like you always have, and you're not intentionally hurting anybody, that you should need to worry in addition to all of that to parse everything you say, because that's censoring. That to me is just, and in business it's extremely frustrating. I think you're censoring normal dialogue, and when you do that, our overall communication is going to suffer. Things aren't going to get said that need to be said, and then the world becomes a more dangerous place to exist in.
And I always say the people that are censoring, if you have the balls to censor someone, you better have never said anything inappropriate.
Well, of course not.
Or done anything offensive, because that's where I come to. It's like we are imperfect by nature as human beings. Like the fact that groups of people, bash other groups of people, they're making it like they are better than the other group.
Of course.
But it's not the case. Like we're all fucking human beings.
Exactly right.
And that's the problem. And we keep coming back to this, like, to the free speech thing, right? It's like we have to have the dialogues. We have to have the hard discussions in this country. If we're going to solve problems, we've got to all look in the mirror and solve our own problems first. That's the problem. But it's the truth, because the media is pitting everybody against each other, right? In America, we all kind of want the same thing. Like, want to be able to live free, do my own shit. Don't infringe on me. I won't infringe on you. Like, my morals are not better than your morals. We have different morals. Like, cool. Like, I'm good with however you want to live life.
Differences are awesome.
Right.
I embrace people's differences.
Right. But we've gotten back to this point where it's just like these certain groups are just trying to pit people against one another, and we're falling for it. And you're seeing what's happening in this country.
I think it's temporary, Rocco. I tell you why.
I hope so.
I think I think when you take the spectrum of philosophy, it isn't conservative Democrats' philosophy. You have very, it isn't even right or left, but you have extreme on the far end of what they call liberal thought and the far end of conservative thought. There's a small amount of citizens out there.
Yeah.
Small overall.
Agreed.
You look at there's just a small.
Yep.
But they are the most vocal. And you have everyone in the center, this big wad of people in the center that are just trying to live their life. Most of these folks with kindness, pragmatic thought, make rational decisions, and live their life. These extremes are making it difficult for the majority in the center to just live a life of civility.
Yeah.
We need to make civility cool again, and I think it's going to happen because
It's going to take time.
Because and I think I think right now that I can't imagine it's not. When it comes to philosophy, it's not tenable that the philosophy of a few will rule the philosophy of the many over a long period of time. I can see little spurts of it. I can't see it lasting. I just can't. And call me an ultimate optimist on that, but I just can't. It's irrational.
Well,
it's irrational.
And I think we need people to step up in the political sphere and just step up in the world and say we're not putting up with it anymore. Like, we need people to start stepping up and facing the opposition.
I think it'll happen.
I hope so, but again, that comes down to that's difficult. It's ugly. People don't want to do it. It takes work. I mean, and I think we've got to.
I think it's like dominoes. We have the first domino hasn't tipped yet in the direction back towards civility. It hasn't tipped yet. It's going to tip. I don't know what's going to be the trigger,
right?
But I think it's going to tip, and when it does, I think in the end, we've seen crazies out there in society. There's always been an element of that. We've just unfortunately because of social media, we've given them a platform now to be heard, and they're using that platform effectively to drown out the majority of people in the country.
Yeah,
that's not going to last forever. It's not going to last forever.
I love your optimism, brother.
Yeah,
I agree. I mean, I agree with that.
I think it's untenable. I think that they won't. It's unsustainable. It won't. We are also seeing this happen in one of the greatest economic upturns this country's ever seen.
Yeah,
I'm of the belief that the economy flattens out for the average person. I'm not talking about economic numbers and theories. No, I'm talking about people generally have what they need. If it gets tight, like it got tight in the early 80s, or it gets tight as it did 90, 91, 92, or right after 9/11, if it starts to tighten up, and I think you will see the extremes in society no longer being paid attention to, that we need to find a way out.
Yeah.
We just have it very easy right now. So, it's easy for the extremes to be so loud. Just my thoughts.
Yeah.
Time will tell. I don't, I'm not saying that I have it all figured out. I want to ask you, too, about a more esoteric question. Do you think, before you give me an answer, let me flesh out the question first. Do you think the average person on this planet, not Americans, not specific to gender or anything, just the average person on this planet, when they look into the mirror, and when they really look into the mirror, or if I could do it for sake of argument, everybody really stare into the mirror, do you think most people really like what they see? Now, I'm not entirely talking about aesthetics. I'm really, because the mirror is the the tool for self-examination, the most common tool for self-examination, right? But when they look into the mirror and they stare at themselves, if they really having a moment of truth, do you think that? What would you say the percentage of people that would really say they like what they see?
I'd say it's low.
And
Just
why?
low.
Why do you believe that?
Because
What do you believe?
Go ahead.
I would say 30% of people like what they see.
Okay.
And I would say a reason is because what society puts out there that is the definition of okay.
Yeah.
Like,
let's talk about that. Okay, the definition of okay.
Like what you're supposed to look like, what you're
Yeah.
supposed to act like, what you're supposed to do, societal norms, right? And I think these societal norms have been ingrained in people's mind, and when they look in the mirror and say, wait a minute, I don't fit them, I don't like myself. They don't understand why, but they don't. That self-examination is hard. I mean, just pick any societal norm, right? Okay, you're supposed to go to college after high school. Well, the person doesn't go to college, and they're working a job just to make their ends meet. They look in the mirror and they think they're a failure because they didn't get into college, or they're not making enough money. There are so many things that society tells us we shouldn't do, that I think when people look in the mirror and one of those things jumps out, it causes that lack of self-esteem. And I think it's hard. I think it's really hard. And that's why I say 30%. I think it's really hard for people to look in the mirror and really like what they see. Because we're all flawed, right? We all, I don't like everything about myself. I would be lying if I said I did. But I think I'm confident and content with who I am. I've accepted who I am and the choices I make and the choices I've made. I think that's hard for a lot of people to do. And I think because society tells us we're supposed to do certain things, look a certain way, act a certain way, and then when someone doesn't, they don't like themselves because of it. That's my belief. I think the norms of society has caused people to look in the mirror and not like what they see.
Tiff?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, that's basically earlier why I talked about, like, we strive, like, you go to the not the barber shop, but you go to the salon and you bring a picture of another woman with totally different hair, and
Good
you
point.
want that
Yep.
hair, and then, like, you know,
I can't do that anymore.
Aw, it's easy for you. Or you go to the dentist and you want your teeth to look this way, and it's a picture of another person. How about we are just happy with who we are?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, perfection, what is it? Like, okay, so when you age, you're supposed to have some wrinkles, and you're supposed to have gray hair, or you wouldn't have it. Or, you're supposed to sag a little bit and all that stuff. We're trying to defy the odds of time. Like, I mean, and instead of trying to, like, the place that I've come to is, instead of trying to be the most beautiful person in the room from an exterior, how about we have the most beautiful soul? Like, how about, like, I don't know about you, but, like, I could see somebody and they may, not be maybe the most beautiful from the exterior, but their personality and the love that they have for people and their kindness makes them the most beautiful person in the room. And I think that we base so much of, like, the judging on the exterior.
Yeah.
The exterior is going to change for all of us, whether you want to embrace it or not. At some point, you'll end up looking like a clown if you just continue to try to modify and, like, what are we doing? And I mean, I understand surgeons and stuff, that's what they do, and some of it, I mean, they're
Joan
really
Rivers.
they're really talented.
right.
But at the end of the day, and if you have the extra money to do it, and I'm not judging anyone, but
Right
at the
on.
end of this,
Yeah, I
don't
get it.
judge me when
I
I
get it.
decide to just be real.
I get it.
Like, I have friends and they're like, oh, like, your WTF lines are, like, they're showing. And I hate to tell you, but if I get Botox, they're still going to be there because I'm looking at you right now for asking me that. Like, so, like, you hear me? Like, that's just me, because that's the face I make when I just don't understand, like,
Yeah.
I mean, what are we going to do? Just continue?
Well, okay, so because the reason I asked that question is again, it's an esoteric question about, do they like what they see? With our younger folks that grew up with Instagram, and that's, I'll use that social media first, because that whole thing is based around photos. That's the whole thing. There's a whole culture out there in that particular demographic using that platform that is so absolutely visual. It's visual. They can fake a lot of things, including the filters, and they fake being an influencer, and fake a lot of things. Can't fake a plane.
Right.
You can fake a lot. You can fake a lot. You can fake a lot of things. But the point is, there's just so much emphasis placed on perfection. Young girls looked at Kim Kardashian, and now again, we're not from that generation.
Right.
That is not attractive to me. But
No.
that generation, those are the things that are important to them feature wise, and that's what a lot of girls that age apparently want to pursue to be. I guess my point is, we are drunk on visuals, and social media has contributed. Now, again, our age, there was glamour magazines.
Yeah.
There was, there was GQ for men, how to dress, how to, skin cream for guys and all this. I get it. But we're really drunk today, especially the generations that are below us are drunk on the visual aspect of life, and they're lacking on the importance of substance.
I mean,
often.
Yeah, the problem is visuals are the highlight reel of life. And people see the visuals and they think that's what life is, and that's what life should be like, and that's what I have to strive to obtain. And that's not the case. And I look at it as, my job as a parent with my two girls is to show them what it means to love yourself, what it means to to really look in the mirror and love who you are. And it's not about looks, right? Like my daughters are beautiful; they'll always be beautiful in my eyes. It's not about that. It's about who they are as people, how they treat other human beings, what they do to one another, how they support one another, how they support others in the world. And that's our job as parents. And I think that's our job as our generation. The generation the three of us are in right now, I think if we can, we have to start showing them a different way. Because I think we have, you're right, we've went off course. Like, that's not what life's about. Looks fade, unfortunately. They do. And look, if you want to get Botox, that's your totally cool. Like, if that's for you, no problem.
Right.
Don't do it to please somebody else.
No, to look like somebody else.
Do it because you want to do it. Like, that's great. Like, awesome. If you want to do that, totally fine. Like, great. But too many people are doing it to impress others.
Yeah.
And I mean, I used to do that back in my 20s. Like, we all fell into that routine of trying to impress.
Well, I think that's part of growing.
It is.
It's part of the human experience for most people.
But to your point, like, it is such a thing today, the visual aspect of life. And I think, our generation has to start helping to steer the ship back on course by teaching people it's not all about that. It's about who you are as a human being, how you treat other people, how you operate within the world, regardless of how you look. I mean, that's something we need to talk more about in the world. But we don't, because one, people have the attention span of a goldfish, so it's easier to look at a picture. It's easier to look at a picture than it is to read. It's the truth when you think about it. Like, so much easier to say, argue. That's a great picture. That's a great picture.
I can't
argue.
argue.
Actually reading the content.
No.
So, and that's just, there's a whole systemic problem in my mind with that. But that's the unfortunate part of society, that we have gotten to that point. And I just look at my two daughters and know, like, those are the two that I have to guide and let them know that looks don't define you. Your spirit defines you.
Yeah.
Your motivation defines you. Your intelligence defines you. The way you treat other people defines you. Like, you'll always be beautiful in my eyes, in everybody's eyes, as long as your soul is beautiful.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's something that I want to teach them, and I will always do whatever I can to set that example for them.
It's so strange too, because it's too easy for our generation. I'm a little older than both of you, a little. It's too easy to look down and do what our parents did to us and say, "Oh, you kids, and you're crazy, rock and roll music, and all that." It's too easy for us to be our parents. But, like, I'm not afraid for the future. I know we talk about Instagram and all this stuff, and people wanting to be influencers and taking the shortcut. That's all true. But there are times I look at trends with the young people where I see materialism is not a big thing with a lot of them. They're searching sometimes for the truth. They want to cut through the bullshit that our generation laid upon them and us. Yeah. And I see elements of the younger generation that make me feel hopeful. Do you see that?
I agree.
Do you see that?
Yeah, I do. Back to what you were just talking about, and then that, I just feel like mental health and, like, depression and anxiety seem to be at a all-time high. I mean, I guess rightfully so in some situations, but I think that the social media platform attributes to that. And don't get me wrong, like, I'm for every profession. Like, if you can go somewhere looking like this and come out looking like this, and that's what you want to look like, that's fine. But you just have to understand that genetics and things like that, maybe you're not supposed to look like so and so. You were beautifully, wonderfully made in the image that you are.
Well, aesthetic beauty is a man-made construct, right? I mean, am I right? Because you can see how it changes from different parts of the world.
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely.
But what I'm saying is, like, I want the youth to understand, and even people my age to understand that, like, looking like somebody else, like there's something so wonderful about just you being who you are and how you look and your bone structure and your makeup, like it's individuality. You know what I mean? Like, be authentic, like just be happy with who you are. And I'm not one to judge, but I'll look through social media and you'll see like the filters and the people that like maybe post something every day because they want somebody to say they're beautiful. How about you just know you are?
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Do you know, like, I mean, you don't have to be a psychologist to really, like, watch over things. But it's real hard to
say that and actually help someone get there to mentally. There's a lot of people that can't find self-love under any circumstances.
And it's
Look
sad.
at our suicide rate.
Yeah,
That's what
right.
I'm trying to say is, like, why is that happening more and more and more? Maybe it always was and we didn't know because we didn't see it as much.
But it's happening too often.
But it is. Yeah. And I do think, like, I know, like, as my kids were growing up, and it's like, you know, I want a house, and, like, I'm not going to have the American dream of having a house. You can have the American dream of having a house if you work for the house. Like, everything, like, you just don't, okay, I was born, I'm going to get a car, I'm going to get a house, I'm going to graduate from a big school, I mean, you look at my life, that's not how it worked. No one's going to say, where'd you go to college? You're just going to know that I got this job. And obviously I had to go to college, so I don't need to post my degree on the wall.
Right.
But what I'm just saying is so many people think you're entitled to all of these different things.
And I don't even think the people that feel they're entitled, oftentimes they don't mean it mean-spirited wise.
No.
They've been brought up in a world that they're expecting the world to provide from them.
Everybody's a
winner.
winner.
And then the crazy part of that's failed parenting. But what's funny is, but the funny part about it, esoterically, I believe America will provide for you anything, but you have to be a rockhead and day in, day out, you know, for another lack of a better term, grind or work or be diligent or have discipline. You do that stuff and believe in a single purpose or a general purpose, America is going to provide for you. And 99.9% of the time, you will be successful in spite of your own mediocrity.
Right.
You know, that's reality.
But it's the work you have to do.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
Everything comes back to that. And that America, you can.
How do we get those young folks to understand that? And again, you don't. How do we get a generation who was really coddled to understand that work or effort does not have to be hard. Work or effort can be fun. It can be fulfilling. It can be goal attaining. It could be rewarding in its own way. It doesn't have to be toiling and painful. I don't like the way we talk. We don't have good understanding of words in this country anymore. We've substituted, you know, we substituted the wrong words to describe the human experience too often. And when it comes to explaining effort and diligence and so forth, we somehow now equate that with almost, oh, it's impossible. Oh, it's so hard. Where did that come from?
I don't know.
It's insane. Those words should not be synonymous.
Right. No, and I think the other problem we have, you know, how do you get that younger generation? I think our generation has to start making better choices. We shouldn't be fighting our kids' battles.
Take the credit card back.
But think about it. Like, we shouldn't be fighting our kids' battles. We shouldn't be setting unreasonable expectations with our kid that everybody's going to be successful. Yeah. Everybody's a winner. Everybody can do this.
Well, they're wearing their kids' life as a badge. You see, you can't, like, my parents never wore my success or failure or my brother's success and his ultimate demise. They never wore it as a badge. Like, they never felt they were being examined by society or graded by society based upon the success or failure of their children. But our generation You know, in the generation below us who are raising children, and I think that's why you see parents defending their kids and wanting them to be the first in class. And if Johnny doesn't get picked for a certain team, they throw a hissy fit and all this bullshit. I think they take it personally, like it's an affront toward them. It isn't even for the kid half the time. The kid probably doesn't give a shit, but it's against them. You see, they're taking it personally. I don't get that
because they can't post their perfection on social media.
I guess.
I mean,
I guess
the simplicity of it is, you think like I'm just thinking about my Facebook feed and the amount of people I know that are parents and how they don't post about like the dumb shit their kids do. I mean, we don't do that either. I put my daughter on stories all the time. She does crazy shit.
You think?
Yeah. She eats frozen chicken nuggets for breakfast because she couldn't wait for me to microwave them. But anyways, but I think a lot of it is like, I see a lot of these parents, they want to show that they're, and I get it. Like you want to provide a better life for your kids than you had, and I feel the same way. Like I don't want my kids to want for anything. However, I also want my kids to understand how the world works.
Yeah.
Not everybody's number one.
No.
Like to be number one, you got to do what the number ones do. Like that's what it boils down to. But I think a lot of these parents are kind of overparent and are overprotective. And I see them on Facebook. They're only posting about how perfect their kid is. Look at how perfectly coiffed my kid's hair is and how their perfect outfit is. Like, I'm lucky my daughter showers every day. Like, it's just, you know what I mean?
Right.
And like, we live in a nice house. We have nice things. Like, it's not like, but it's just, I'm okay with the imperfection of life.
Right.
Like we have to be okay as parents. We have to be okay with that because we have to teach our kids life isn't about being perfect.
Right.
It's about being excellent.
And no matter how hard you try, like we had 6 kids. We raised them all the same way. Mm-hmm. One got addicted to heroin and he's gone.
Yep.
People say, don't put on the obituary that they died of a heroin overdose because then people will judge you. Excuse me. It could happen in your family too. Yeah. And most likely it might. Somewhere along the line with the way that this is, it could hit. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So before you start judging from your little glass house there, know that like
absolutely
we're good parents. Yeah. Somebody was always there. We ate dinner at the dinner table. Mm-hmm. We tucked our kids in at night. Mm-hmm. We got up with them to go to school.
Yep.
But guess what? Like, I mean, it doesn't matter. I mean, and I'm that parent. I probably went way the other side because I was no one with me.
Yeah.
You know, so you're just like, oh, I got to see them off to school and make sure they have breakfast and da-da-da-da-da-da. Yeah. But, I mean, at the end of the day, you're right. Like, show us the 2 years that you went through the addiction and the 7 rehabs and when, like, you had anxiety for 2 years after that and you didn't want to drive in the car yourself or go anywhere and the taxing that it had on you.
Right.
Like, let's talk about that. And see, I think a lot of times why people don't like me is I just keep it 100. Yeah. I just throw it out there like, look here.
Well, life is unvarnished, you see, and I think that most of us live in a varnished life. And to that note, I'll ask both of you, this has always kind of like puzzled me too. You brought up a good point. So I also, as you know, I lost my brother to heroin in '96. So it's been a while, and it was different then. Heroin wasn't as popular of a drug in '96 as it is today. Certainly is as deadly, but it was a rarity. And I remember dealing with that, and this is before social media. So then, when social media became a thing, we started using it for the guitar business and all this stuff. I was pretty frank because a lot of my brother Brian's friends are still on social media. You knew Brian well, but I've never run from the standpoint of explaining how he died. And I must have made a comment or something in talking about it. I said, yeah, he made an absolutely ridiculous choice, and it was a choice, and the drug didn't kill him. His decision to use it was what killed him, and I want to do my best to keep my children from making decisions like that. So I immediately was getting a multitude of private messages about 10 years ago about how, you can't, you telling people that the heroin isn't dangerous or you know, you're hurting your brother's legacy, or you're making him sound like a drug addict. Your parents are going to be so upset about that. It was mind numbing to me. All I said was, he made a bad decision, and I'm going to do my best to explain my kids that if you make a decision like this, that's where you're going to end up.
Yep.
I viewed that as just a real pragmatic statement. I didn't, man, I could not believe the commentary.
Yeah.
Like, come on, folks. I mean, you really? I mean, you want me to romanticize dying from heroin? You know, I think the fact that, like Tiffany said, we can't talk about the reality of it.
Yeah.
We can't talk about that because we don't want to shame anybody, or we don't want. What am I going to do? Lie?
Right.
You know, if I wanted to cover it up, I would have covered it up from day one. Right?
Yeah,
But what's the why?
Well, he made a bad
though?
decision. It killed him. His decision killed him.
Right.
Someone dies in a DUI accident. They get drunk and go out and kill. Just to say they kill themselves. It is terrible. I will feel terrible.
Absolutely.
But the people around, and I don't dispel the grief. The grief is important. It's necessary.
Yeah.
In the end, they died over their own volition, bad decision. If you are afraid to say that in public, or you're afraid to hear that, then you are not dealing in reality.
Yeah.
You know?
But you have to share that because the other people's lives
100%.
change from that one person's bad decision.
100%.
And if we sit there and we just keep sugarcoating everything, we just sugarcoat all of
the
it.
drugs
then
kill everybody. The drugs don't kill everybody.
Your choice
this
to
is
do it did.
insane to me.
It's the choice.
Right.
Should it be available and all that? No. And the crime that it brings? No.
Yeah.
I want it eradicated. Of course I do. But still, I guess it's an absolvement of responsibility.
Well, that's exactly it.
And we as a society must feel more comfortable with that. Blame it on the drug.
Yeah.
And I don't want to go down this road, but there's the whole gun debate too.
I'm
not a hunter. You know me. I don't even, I don't generally deal with guns. My point to you is, we really are at times afraid almost to deal with the fact that we have free will. God gave us free will, if you believe that, and we have choices. We make bad choices. We make bad choices at times. Bad things will happen. It's
every day.
I mean, that's
Every day.
And not talking about real life circumstances with your background, or real life circumstances about the decision to take drugs. Don't talk about the drug. I don't want to hear about fentanyl and it's killing. Fentanyl is not killing anybody. It's the people's decision to use it. Oh, well, they didn't know it was laced with that. Well, no, they were taking a decision to use another dangerous drug that fentanyl was laced with and killed them. My point is, it's horrid. We need to address it as a society. We don't know how. I get all that. But don't absolve the human from the problem, because it hurts your feelings.
Right.
It's bullshit.
Well, I always say things don't kill people. Choices kill people.
Yeah.
Like it's
No doubt.
And that's but we won't have that discussion because it's uncomfortable.
Someone will get offended, Rocco.
Exactly, because you're now blaming the person. And I'm not. Look, gun violence happens. I get that, but someone made the choice to buy the gun. Now they say they limit access, whatever. Okay, different argument. But take the DUI, right? If you choose to go out and drink to the point where you can't operate a vehicle, and you unfortunately get into a car crash because of that, that's the most tragic thing. You don't want to see that happen to anybody.
No.
But we have to look at the choice, right? There's a choice that was made. If someone, decides to engage in a risky behavior, there's a consequence to risky behavior, right? One of those consequences is death. If you choose to jump out of an airplane and your parachute doesn't open, that's unfortunate, but remove the choice of jumping from the airplane, you're still alive. Like, there are certain things that people, it's fundamental logic. Like, choices matter. And if you're going to make the choice to engage
not
in a
much
risky,
in America anymore.
Well, right. That's the problem. and coming back to like talking about the things you were both talking about, like what we have to get back to is the beauty of life is its imperfection.
Yeah.
And we have to become, we don't live in a varnished life. We don't have a varnished society.
Right.
We need to embrace the imperfection of life. And I think if we did that, we'd be more tolerant of one another. We'd be less judgmental of others. And I think that's how we get society back on course. Removing judgment, becoming more tolerant, understanding that life is fucking ugly.
Yeah.
Like, it's not perfect. It's not meant to be perfect. Everybody struggles.
And it's never going to be.
No, like all three of us in this room have our own struggles, right?
Of course.
We may look like we're successful and have these business, but we all have struggles, right?
Well, sure. That's part of the human experience.
Exactly. Every single day, there's something going on that other people don't know about. That's the imperfection of life. And I don't judge other people because of what they're going through. I don't know. And I think we need to become more tolerant and be willing to talk about these things and understand, come back to being accountable for things that happen. Human beings make choice. To your point, we have free will.
Yep.
That means I have the ability to make, if I get in my car and I choose to get on 79 and drive 100 miles an hour, okay, and I get in an accident, that's a choice I made. I chose to drive at an unreasonable speed. It would suck if something happens, right? And people would feel bad, but ultimately I made the choice. No one else did.
But that's so real. Yet most of society, and I believe this to be true in my opinion, the vast majority of society does not want to play that out in their head because it makes them feel uncomfortable.
Fuck yeah, it does. Absolutely.
And I get it. Part of it is you don't want to hurt other people's feeling, and that's the kindness in you.
Yeah, of course.
But there needs to be some rational thought that we need to be brutally honest about the circumstance, or else nothing will ever change. You don't have a listen, you don't have a chance in hell of correcting a drug problem if you don't stop people from understanding that their choices can kill them. They have consequences. I brought my brother's Bible home from his stuff, and we went down and collected it from Tampa. My mother gave him a Bible, and he was using it as a bookmark. And it's prophetic. I was in the plane coming home, and I opened up the Bible where this bookmark was, and she had written on an index card, "Son, actions have consequences." And he was using that as a bookmark, prophetic, coincidental, whatever. I'll never forget it. She wrote that. And it didn't help him. He made a decision to use, and look what happened. But it's always stuck with me. But people need to hear that. Like, your actions have a risk component to it. Why is it so hard to explain to kids nowadays? I feel like sometimes we're living in a life where the critical thinking that we were taught as a youngster, like how we deal with each other on the playground and stuff like that, we don't do it anymore.
No.
We just have thrown the critical thinking out, and we're just kind of, we're uber sensitive, uber hurt feelings, and we're just going to push our way through life. It's like, how do we get here?
But you know how we talk about social media, and I always say social media is a platform, and if it's used well, big things can happen.
Our choice.
Good big things can happen.
Absolutely right.
I've seen it work. So like the people that everyone idolizes, like Kim K, we know who's beautiful, and we know every angle, and we know by now what your butt cheeks look like and your face and like all of your body, right? What if these people that everyone idolizes, like, actually talk to them about real life stuff,
No one will care.
No, but think about that.
Yeah.
They're so captivated.
They have power. They have power.
Listen.
The Rock has a lot of power.
The Rock. I mean, so many athletes and stuff like that. People hang on to their every single word, right? And they're influenced. They are influencers.
So that's what's making politicians nervous, because before social media, the most powerful people in the country that had the audience and the news services was the politicians. Now this other medium has given individuals such as The Rock and Kim Kardashian and Kanye West, movie stars, giving them a voice to reach people directly. That's why I think our political system's in jeopardy.
But to your point, I agree that we need celebrities to do that, but I believe they won't, because where's the money in it?
Right.
'Cause let's think about it. Like, all these celebrities on social media, they're not doing it just to be a good person. Even The Rock, like, he's a good dude, and I like him. He's always selling his tequila on there.
Of course.
He's always they're always selling something.
There's always hucksterism.
Right. So it's, so yeah, they talk about beauty and things like that because they're selling
That's what
products.
they're selling.
It's going to take one person to buck the trend and say, I don't give a shit about the money. I don't give a shit. I want to make an impact. Like, that's what we need. We need people to stand up and make an impact.
Yes, Rocco, but I don't think right now that is going to happen.
Right.
That's not. The reason being is we have people with uber money, like I'm talking like Musk and Jeff Bezos, Bill Gates, the Larry Ellison from Oracle. These guys have billions. and they want to continue to be businessmen. But to buck the system, it's going to take someone that really does not care. I'm not saying he has to give their money, he or she has to give the money away, but they need to start helping people re-emphasize what's important right now. Because
that's the change. I'm telling you, that's the change, because people don't go to church like they used to.
Well, they don't go to church because I will tell you point blank, churches are going away left and right because there's no congregation anymore, and it has nothing to do with COVID. It's just the fact that these churches that were traditional churches, they're just not being attended anymore.
Right. You don't have to be like named a minister. You don't have to have a certain designation to do what's right, to lead people in the right direction. The songs and things are talking about doing drugs and drinking this and washing it down with this and a night of this. And you understand, I'm not judging who does whatever it is that they do, but who's saying like, love yourself, like no matter who you are, because it's preaching something different from what they're displaying.
Well, it's not sexy, so kids aren't going to. When I say sexy, I don't even mean like sex. It's not titillating. It's not in vogue. It's not cool.
I feel
it's not cool to be civil, and I really believe civility needs to be cool again, and I mean that. Like we need to be. Totally, it needs to be in style to get along with your neighbor. That needs to come back in style again. Trends go like this, right? We're in a trend right now where it's not. We're in a trend right now to be caustic. We need to go back to like
being decent human beings.
Yeah,
That's
like
it.
People say, Tiff, you spend a lot of time doing that work. What are you making from that? What's in it for you?
How many times have we had this conversation?
What's in it for me?
You nailed it.
I don't know. Like so
God.
many things.
Yep.
You know what I mean? You can't put a dollar amount on. So if you have to ask me that question, we got a lot more conversations that need to be had because
they're just not the person to be talking to you.
At all.
They'll never get it. They'll never get it.
Like you're wasting your time, you're drowning yourself out. There's bigger things that you could be doing. You could be making money, but is money everything? Is it?
Okay. Last question.
Yeah.
Last question. Rocco has already shared a little bit about this, but I would love to hear the YouTube answer to this about I am a person who over the past couple years has found and embraced the term of indifference in my life, and it has been liberating. The type of indifference I'm talking about, it does not come from indifference to pain or suffering or hurt or anything like that. The indifference I'm talking about is telling myself that if I am not interested, or if I do not have a vast knowledge of a subject, or it's just not in my lane, so to speak, I'm not going to have an opinion. I'm not going to guess. I'm not going to share an opinion. I'm not going to make one up on the go, and I'm certainly not going to die on that hill on an opinion. I'm just going to be indifferent and just not enter into the dialogue, the narrative, or the conversation. I'm just not going to go there. I'm finding a lot of people who are being offended by my decision to be indifferent on topics. I find it funny, but I also find not being involved in things, or not trying to be involved in things that are not interesting to me, or that are above my pay grade or intellect, liberating. So what is your term? What's your thoughts on indifference, how it's perceived, and how do you, or if you do, use it in your own life, sir?
I mean, we've had this discussion before, and I think you're spot on. And it's probably more of the past 6 to 9 months I've come to realize that there's just some shit I just don't care about, and I'm not going to engage in the discussion. And yeah, when you say that to someone that has a very strong opinion about a topic, they look at you like you're crazy. Like, how do you not care about that? I'm like, because I just don't give a shit. It's not in my lane. It doesn't impact my life. It doesn't affect me day to day. So I've embraced indifference more, because I used to be a type of person that I thought I had to have an opinion on everything, on every political thing, every business thing.
Me too.
And I'm like, wait a minute. A lot of this shit doesn't even concern me that much, really. And I don't need to have an opinion. And it is very liberating when you embrace the fact. You got to get through the shit that people will give you, right? And understand that's
now it's funny. When
Right,
you do it long enough, you realize
Exactly.
eventually it's just funny.
At first it's like, well, it's confusing. So I'm like, what? Like, why? Like, okay, like, I get you care about, that's awesome. You're passionate about something. I couldn't care less. I give zero shits about what you're talking
but you're
about.
Not. But my argument is even a step further. Like, you're not going to even help that person by making up an opinion.
Right, exactly.
Because
that's exactly right.
It's just going to make your life tougher. Because
Right.
if you guess the side that he likes or she likes, then now you have to continue to talk about something you don't want to talk about. And if you choose the other side, now they're pissed off at you.
Yeah.
I don't
I just
and
listen.
it isn't always politics. It could be
No.
anything.
Anything.
Philosophy could be anything.
I just listen and say, unfortunately, I just don't have an opinion on that, but I'm happy to hear yours. That doesn't mean
So what's generally the response when you say that? Generally,
it's like, well, why don't you have an opinion on that? That's usually the response. Why don't you have an opinion on that? I'm like, because I fucking don't.
How did we get there where we're supposed to be experts on every opinion?
I'm a lawyer. That's what I do.
But
that's it.
But even as in coffee talk, like it's almost, and of course politics being the last 2 years being crazy, but it seems like if you're rooting for one team, then you have to believe all the things they believe.
Yes.
But I would, but if you know that person, you're like, well, you're a hunter, you hunt, but the folks you're hanging around with are anti-gun. So how does that jive? There's so many contradictions in life in general, which makes life beautiful.
Yes.
The differences are what you love about life, right? So when you choose to be a pragmatic thinking person and you take every issue or circumstance and you evaluate them individually, you can't be pigeonholed anyway. People don't like that you live that way.
Well.
And I know you're indifferent. And we've talked about this. She wears indifference as a badge.
Yeah.
She's passionate about what she loves.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
what she loves is people.
And
She
I'll
doesn't
just
love.
tell you straight up.
Yeah.
Like I'm not.
But like I know you do not mess with politics because it just
We won't even talk about it. Yeah, I
well,
won't.
but let's just say.
I listen to people. Like if they say something, I'll be like, yeah, I understand.
Let me bring it a little bit closer. Come a little bit closer.
Yeah,
to
I'll
me.
say I understand what you're saying. I can appreciate what you're saying. And they're like, well, what are your thoughts? I'm like, I honestly don't have any.
Yeah.
And they're like, what?
I think I
I mean,
actually
you have
learned
to
a
be
little bit
mad.
from you,
Like,
Tiff, initially.
they're
I
like,
think.
you have to be upset with that. And I'm like, I can't possibly be upset about everything. It's not
Yes,
personal.
there you go.
Yeah.
You
There
know,
you go.
or like somebody
There you
will
go.
call me and they'll go through this whole thing and they expect me to know. And I'll just be like, oh, well, like, I'm not a lawyer. You know, like, you just find you want me to get.
You can't use that.
I can't say that.
You know, but you know what I'm
tried.
like,
I've
let me
tried.
get you in touch. You know, I have friends.
Yeah.
He's sitting next to me. Do you know, or like, I mean, you can't, I say, listen, I would love to say that I know, but I don't, and I'm okay with not knowing. Or I'm fine, like if somebody calls me for something and I'll be like, you know what, I'm actually not the best fit for you, but here is.
Of course.
Like, I mean, the people that think they know everything, I'm just here to tell you we don't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, and I'd rather do that
Well-
and just get out that way than be wrong.
Well, I come to this indifference thing through a lot of Stoic philosophy the last couple of years and listening to people who Ed Lattimore became a good friend of mine too. It just if you can make a decision in your life not to play anything.
Yeah.
I mean, if you make a decision, that isn't an affront against anybody. And if that person is taking it as a affront, as Ed would say, that's not your concern. That they're being offended is not my concern.
Yeah.
I don't give it a second thought. It's not callous. It's
No.
just it's all them. It's not you. You're grounded in what you believe, what you choose to engage.
Yeah. I mean, one of the most impactful Stoic sayings that ever hit me was, not making a decision is making a decision.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's indifference, right? It's like, I don't care. But like when you think about that statement, really the essence of it, like that is a very powerful statement, and it speaks to the indifference. Like like I don't care. Like it doesn't. Like that's my decision on that topic. Like I don't care. Like, that's the decision.
And sometimes it isn't even that I don't care. Like I've gotten into conversations with people that were some pretty volatile subjects, and I just don't have a formulated opinion. Not that if I didn't think it through for a period of time, and maybe I should have thought it through, but I just have chosen not to. And I'm not going to add to the conversation or the narrative because I haven't thought through what I really believe, and because you don't have an instant.
Yeah.
And I laugh because most of society is not, I hate to say this, but most of society does not exhibit enough intellect of a degree to have major opinions on all the major issues. They just they gumshoe it and they just throw it out in the ether. And by throwing it out in the ether, you're having all these people upset with each other over things they don't even really understand. It really is puzzling to me that you would really want to label yourself as such and put yourself out there for beliefs that you don't even understand yourself.
Right.
Yet they'll die on that hill for that belief.
Yeah.
It's really interesting to me. I don't think that would be a good way to live. And I used to try to have opinions on everything because I thought that was the thing to do.
Yeah.
It's
Drove
not.
me insane.
Yeah. It's not.
My friends, did you have a good time?
Yeah,
Always.
before we leave,
Yeah, I know what we're
I
going to do.
have to say something before we leave.
Because
So
this man's very instrumental.
in my life, and so are you.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
I'm sitting here with two people that are very, very important and played a big role in my success in becoming an entrepreneur. Eric McKenna obviously has been my friend for many, many, many years. So
Many years.
His brother Brian was near and dear to my heart,
Yep.
and a lot of people know that and don't. But like the McKenna family, I love, and so when I was buying the building, or even more than that, like Eric always brought me on his shows. He got my name out there. He helped me. We help each other. But when I found a place down the street here in town, since we both are doing things in our hometown, I brought him there and I'm like, I want to buy this. And we stood there in the middle and he's like, this?
I rolled
And
my
he's
eyes.
Okay. Like maybe we could find another place. But he was like, if this is what you want to do, I'm with you.
Yep.
And any question, anything, he took me to the end. And then, so obviously I own that building now. And he always
Unbelievable
motivates,
job you've done with that building.
stops by and says positive things. And I
course.
love him for that because we all need that person in our circle. And then Rocco over here from day one, which will be tomorrow.
Now, how did you guys connect? Like, how did you, I knew you had a circumstance. How did you connect with him?
I just looked for someone that
Yeah.
a lawyer online
Right.
that
awesome.
could
That's
help
awesome.
me with a non-compete, because
Unbelievable.
I was at a company for a long time
Yeah,
and I
yeah,
signed
yeah.
one
Yeah.
and it presented itself after I got let go. And then I was like, oh, but I'm about to do this. That's going to be, so I need an attorney. So I went online. This wonderful guy, so quickly responded to me. It became very personal. And for my first year, he played a humongous role in keeping me
Sane.
you're sane, and just I would say, is this right? And just kind of
Yeah.
I needed him that entire year,
Yep.
and it
Yep.
was a tough
pleasure.
year, but he helped me through it. So Rocco's an
It was my
attorney, and
pleasure.
if you what type of attorney are you
Business.
specifically?
Business,
Business.
yep.
So if you ever need one, highly recommend Rocco. So
No doubt.
tomorrow is a big day for me. So on 4/19/2019, I started my business from home. That was when I was an official agent, independent agent. So tomorrow I will be out of my first 2 years. So I'm no longer the new
amazing.
kid on the block, right?
amazing.
So
It's
awesome.
big girl doing big things. Everything's on me now. No,
Yep.
it has been, but yeah. So I'm just super excited. It's ironic that we didn't plan this out. We're all in the same room. Eric didn't come to know Rocco from me.
No.
I saw Rocco on the podcast. I'm like, that's my boy.
Yeah.
That's my guy.
We have a mutual friend that
Yeah.
connected us.
Yes.
And
Small world.
It is.
I didn't
So
even- it was funny once I dived into Rocco's into his story. I this is when I started the show, because again, didn't know where we were going.
Yeah.
And I told my friend Chris, I go, why would this guy want to possibly come down and talk to me? But you did. That
was
and
awesome.
then now
Yeah.
you're a reoccurring
Yeah.
guest here, pal. To the
I
point where
appreciate it, man.
I'm gonna have to get him his own chair here.
Serious.
I'm just gonna bring one in and just put my name on
We
it.
could do that. We could do that. But no, you give me too much credit. You wanted that building, and I helped you maneuver through the process. You got it, and what you've done with that place is incredible.
That's awesome.
Thank you.
I mean,
Thank you.
and that's Tiffany Battaglini,
Yes.
Erie insurance agent. She's an Erie insurance agent, but she is just the best damn insurance agent that I know, right here on Fifth Avenue in Coriopolis. And you know what? Tremendous friend. That's why this show is so special to me, and why I didn't bring a fourth in today to do a Four Friends series,
Yeah.
because I wanted to really talk about entrepreneurship and things that we connected on. And I think it was the right decision for this show.
That was awesome.
I
It was a
loved
great
it.
time.
I think
Yeah.
it was the
Absolutely.
right decision. But you promised to come back.
Of course.
You promise?
Yeah, it's an honor.
Wow.
To be
I know
on
it's
your
an-
show.
it's an honor.
Absolutely.
It's an
For me,
honor.
it is.
Yes, it
Well, this show's about conversations and only conversations, and you both gave me one hell of one today. So Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
All right.
All right. I'll see y'all soon.
Okay.
All right.
Absolutely.
All right, friends. We are out.
Hello, you're listening to the Eric McKenna Project.